Chapter 501, Papa, I don't like you anymore. Is it a divine object? Wang Zanping opened his eyes wide all of a sudden and held on to the serene world's stone astoundedly. His hands even trembled slightly. Gulp. He swallowed salvia and said dryly, "It is not until now that I understand why others will fight for the serene world's stone fervently upon seeing it. It turns out that its function is very amazing. It's natural. If it were an ordinary holy object, why did the disciples, whose heads are up in space, fight for it violently?" Zhang Han smiled and stared at Zhang Han somewhat emotionally as he said, "However, it did not occur to them in the end that Zhang Han Yang would show up halfway all of a sudden. Ha ha, my vision is expanded today. Zhang Han Yang is very amazing." Upon hearing Zhang Han's words, Zhang Han smiled and shook his head. Whether his opponents were the disciples of talents from the small world or the powerful ones in the secular world, he did not care about that much at all, even though those people indeed could be counted as promising talents. Zhang Han said, "Zhang Han, how are you going to deal with the golden armor and demon dancing sword? Since these two are their inherent weapons, you can't smelt and refine them. However, as for others, since your card class is just at the heaven grade, it will be wasted if you use it." Zhang Han replied, "I don't plan to use the Serene World Stone to do anything at all. I have other plans for it." Zhang Han was dumbfounded as he asked, "Other plans? Based on my knowledge, the Serene World Stone can be only used to elevate the quality of the weapons, am I right?" Speaking of the knowledge related to the Serene World Stone, Zhang Han also heard it from others. Some had told him before that the Serene World Stone could be only used to elevate the quality of the weapons, and he had kept that in mind. It has other functions. Zhang Han nodded as he spoke. He stared out the window and did not explain it in detail. Zhang Han did not ask anything further and chatted with Wang Zanping about other things. Zhang Han's group was on the way back from Hong Kong. On the other side, Muggs, who was dressed in a black gown, arrived at a villa in the northern suburbs of Shenzhen. She also planned to ride a helicopter to return to the sect of the Infinite Sword sect in the Central Plains, intending to cultivate herself in the blessed region of the sect. The gate of the small world would open soon. The period of more than half a year would soon pass. Before that, she wanted to consolidate her cultivation so that she could break through to the divine realm directly after she returned to the worldlet. At that time, she would fetch the demon dancing sword on her own. Upon thinking at this point, Muggs snorted, "HMPH." She strode and walked over to the main entrance relaxedly. "Eldest lady." Two peak strength warriors stood at the main entrance of the villa and greeted Muggs. They were also disciples of the Infinite Sword sect, which was a subsect of the Luofu Sword sect and was like its subsidiary. The leader of the Infinite Sword sect was a teaching elder of the Luofu Sword sect, who lived in the secular world. As Muggs entered through the main door, the two disciples who had greeted her were at a loss. One of them opened his mouth slightly and stared at Muggs' forehead, intending to say something. However, he did not speak. It was not until Muggs left that they stared at each other. "Did you see that? It looks like a seal. Which we used to ask for something, namely, the red Chinese character Qian." "Qian? What is that? Does it mean owing money or being provocative? Is it some specific make-up trick played by the eldest lady?" "SHH, speak cautiously. It won't be good for you if the eldest lady hears your words." They whispered for a while at the entrance. Of course, Muggs did not know what had happened at the entrance. She walked to the inside of the villa leisurely and came across several persons occasionally along the way, who all greeted her by nodding. However, the way they looked at her was somewhat peculiar. Muggs thought, "What is going on?" She walked inside somewhat confusedly. In the end, she saw two slender girls dressed in leather jackets standing in front of the helicopter and waiting for her quietly. After they saw Muggs, they directly said, "Oh, senior sister, what's wrong with your forehead?" Muggs replied somewhat inexplicably, "What do you mean? You One of the girls withdrew the surprising look on her face and said faintly, "Senior sister, take a look for yourself." After hearing her words, Mugs raised her eyebrows and took out a mirror from the space treasure. As she saw the character on her forehead, which looked like a seal imprinted on her, her eyes gradually widened. She said, "Zhang Han Yang." A sharp raging roar resounded through the whole villa, astounding a lot of people. On the other side, in the living room of a villa, Yilong Yuan stood in front of a vertical mirror and stared at the mark on his forehead. Bang! He smashed the mirror into shatters directly and roared as he said, "It can't be erased. FK. Why can't it be erased? Zhang Han Yang, do you intend to become my hardcore enemy?" As Yilong Yuan was about to be on fire, a middle-aged man behind him wore a pale look on his face as he said, "Young master, please calm down. Leader Liao might know how to deal with this mark." He feared that Yilong Yuan would directly demolish the whole villa out of anger. Upon hearing what the middle-aged man had said, Yilong Yuan took a deep breath. After that, he gritted his teeth as he said, "Send me back." After he finished his words, he took the initiative to walk outside. After they got in the helicopter on the parking apron, the helicopter took off. After they arrived at the middle-aged man's sect, Leader Liao welcomed Yilong Yuan to the main hall very politely. He stared at the mark on Yilong Yuan's forehead, observed it for 1 hour, and tried his cure for several hours. In the end, he sighed as he said, "Long Yuan, I am sorry that I also can't figure out what is going on with the mark. Sorry, I can't do anything. Probably, the trick masters of the divine realm can solve this mystery. Zhang Han Yang, you are amazing, indeed amazing." Yilong Yuan was so angry that his face went pale. However, he did not even think of going back to Hong Kong and fighting for his dignity. As always, he meant what he had said. Since he had said that he would fight with Zhang Han Yang again after breaking through to the divine realm, he definitely would do so. Fortunately, several hours passed. The 12-hour mark dissipated for the first time gradually, making the look on Yilong Yuan's face become less ghastly. Of course, Shi Fengwu and Mugs were also experiencing the same thing. The kind of mark like this was a pain in their throats. Fortunately, the mark had dissipated. Otherwise, Mugs definitely would have led a large number of her army and rushed to Hong Kong. They were also relieved. However, they did not know that the situation happened just for the first month. In the future, they would go through the same difficult situation every month. During the whole day, the mark had shown up for 12 hours, which was to remind them that it was time for them to pay the money back. At 3:55 in the afternoon, the helicopter that Zhang Han had taken landed on the parking apron on the backside of the company. Zoom, zoom, zoom. The propeller, which had been swirling swiftly, raised gusts and gusts of strong wind on one side of the parking apron. Several people who stood in front of the parking apron could not help squinting. Xian, who stood on the edge, had been staring at the helicopter. She seemed to have seen Zhang Han's back view. Fortunately, she was dressed in jeans today and did not end up being in the same situation as Zif, who was wearing a dress. Currently, Zif was holding on to her dress tightly so the strong wind would not lift up her dress. If that happened, she would feel embarrassed. Before the helicopter landed, Zhang Han seemed to be somewhat anxious. He opened the cabin door, leapt up nimbly, jumped down, and landed in front of Xian. Xian rushed into Zhang Han's arms. It was not until she had been hugging him for 10 minutes that she drew back her head and said somewhat rebukingly without ever blinking her big eyes, "Honey, you've come back late. You are a half an hour late. Should I punish you?" "Well, as for this, it seems that I am indeed late. In this case, I should be punished." Zhang Han found the situation funny and shook his head. Staring at the stunningly beautiful Xian, he raised his head, stroked the hair on her forehead, and said gently, "How would you like to punish me?" Before Xian could say anything, Zif sighed heavily and reminded them, "Elder sister Yan, you and brother-in-law are so affectionate towards each other after you come back home. Don't act affectionately in front of us. Several single people are here. Zif's words made Zhao Feng, Xuyong, and Instructor Liu burst into laughter. Zhao Feng said solemnly, "Well, I won't be single anymore after some days. It's okay with me, I can learn more from you." Zif gave him a hard look as she said, "You, forget it, Liang Mengkai does not even care to bother with you often." Zif's words made Zhao Feng feel angry. He refuted her by saying, "It's not true, you didn't even see us when we were talking with each other intimately. There are thousands of chat histories on our WeChat accounts." Xian observed the scene and placed her forehead on Zhang Han's shoulder. Both of them burst into laughter. Everybody on the scene knew clearly what was going on between Zhao Feng and Liang Mengkai. Though they were still naive, from the perspective of the outsiders, they might become lovers. Liang Mengkai was quite good. Her brother had been going after Zhang Li recently. Zhang Li's words did not make Zhao Feng overthink it. At first, Zhang Li had appreciated Zhao Feng very much. However, later on, she found that it was more interesting to bully Liang Hao. As for whether they would end up being together, Zhang Han would not bother with it at all, since both the male and female were pretty amazing. It would depend on fate as for if they could be together. All of a sudden, Zif pointed at the parked helicopter and asked, "Well, what is that? Is it a gem?" "Ah?" Xian also raised her head, looked over, and said gently, "Hey, what is that large object?" Others also looked over and saw that Master Wang was holding a gigantic serene world stone with his left hand, which looked like a stunningly twinkling diamond. He held a demon dancing sword in his right hand, with two holy objects in his hands. Master Wang looked forbidding and confident. Zhang Han explained, "We got them from the relic site." Xian nodded as she said, Oh, they are treasures." Wang Zanping laughed out loud as he replied, "They are more than treasures, they are holy objects. Ha ha ha." Though the holy objects were not his, he felt pretty awesome with one holy object in each hand. After everybody greeted each other, Lieutenant and Protector Leng went back to the headquarters of Longqing District. Wang Zanping went to Mount New Moon with Zhao Feng while carrying the two treasures. As for Zhang Han and Xian, they got in the panda car to go pick up Meng Meng. It was 4 o'clock when they set out. By the time they arrived at St. Kindergarten, it happened to be 4:30. Xian sat in the back seat and waited. Zhang Han got out of the car to pick up Meng Meng. He queued up in the line and entered the kindergarten. As the little princess among the crowd saw Zhang Han, her big eyes lit up in an instant. She ran over quickly. As she ran, she stretched out her tender arms and said excitedly, "Papa, Papa." Upon seeing his little princess's look, Zhang Han could not even keep his mouth shut. He smiled and lifted up Meng Meng. Meng Meng pouted her tender mouth as she said, "Papa, why did you just come to pick Meng Meng up? I have been waiting for several minutes." Zhang Han smiled and said, "Papa has been waiting in line at the entrance. Did you miss Papa?" "Yes, I did. Zhang Han greeted her with his cheek and said, "Kiss me." Meng Meng kissed him obediently and cutely. After that, Zhang Han held Meng Meng in his arms and went out of the kindergarten entrance directly. After they were in the car, he acted affectionately to Xian in the back seat for a minute. During that period, all of a sudden, Meng Meng uttered, "HMPH." She folded her tender arms and pouted her lips, on which could seemingly hang bottles containing soy sauce. She said unhappily, "Papa, I don't like you anymore." Chapter 502, Refining. HMPH. Meng Meng snorted gently, pouted her lips, turned around, and did not look at her papa anymore. However, the little girl's big crystal clear eyes blinked and blinked continuously, indicating that she was pondering. She observed the look on her papa's face sneakily through the corner of her eyes, who sat in the front seat. Xian saw the expression on the little girl's face and could not help simmering with laughter. Xian reminded her as she said, "Meng Meng, you have to explain the reason why you don't like Papa anymore so that Papa can think of ways to ask for your forgiveness." Meanwhile, deep inside her heart, She found the scene somewhat funny and interesting. Back when she had coaxed Meng Meng this morning, Wang Jiaxin had said that she would punish her papa when he came to pick her up in the afternoon. It was evident that Meng Meng had thought of her original intention. However, it was somewhat cute of her to be close to Zhang Han a moment ago and pretend to be displeased now. Yes. Zhang Han turned around, took a glimpse at Xian first, and then looked at Meng Meng. He smiled as he said, "Meng Meng, if you don't tell me the reason, how will I know it? You need to tell Papa the reason first." Meng Meng turned her head back, stared at Zhang Han, and pouted her tender mouth as she said, "Papa, why were you not at home this morning? I am not happy because I did not see you this morning." Zhang Han chuckled as he said, "Because I went out because I needed to attend to something. After I finished it, I hurried here to pick you up, Meng Meng." It seemed that Meng Meng had figured out her thoughts. As her big eyes shined gently, she said, "You can't do that, Papa." "Well, you need to inform me in advance that you need to go out. You have to say you are wrong. After that, you should ask me whether I can forgive you or not." Zhang Han smiled as he said, all right. It's Papa's fault that I did not inform you in advance. I made a mistake. Kindly forgive me, Meng Meng." "No, I won't forgive you." "Ah?" This time, Zhang Han was somewhat confused. He found it funny as he asked, "Why? Papa, you can't just apologize verbally, you need to give me some gifts, for example, ice cream. In that case, I will forgive you, Papa." Zhang Han laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha, all right, then, we will go to the mall up ahead first. I will go buy ice cream for you now, is that okay?" "Okay." Meng Meng had been pleased the entire time. At this moment, she could not pretend any more and began to smile happily. Xian by her side stroked Meng Meng's tiny head as she smiled happily, feeling that the little girl was somewhat smart and curious. Consequently, Zhang Han turned right, drove for 5 minutes, and arrived in front of a mall. He got out of the car, jogged over, and bought a strawberry ice cream, which was Meng Meng's favorite. After that, he got back in the car and said, "Here you go, enjoy." A gentle smile lingered around the corner of Zhang Han's lips as he handed the ice cream to Meng Meng. Whenever Zhang Han stared at Meng Meng, he would smile unconsciously. "Thanks, Papa. Papa is the best." Meng Meng took the ice cream over and enjoyed it contentedly. Xian said, "By the way, honey, several adapted songs, which we have been working on with the company, will probably be finished within 3 days. After that, I can rest for a few days." Upon hearing Xian's words, Zhang Han smiled, started the car, and drove back to New Moon Bay as he said, "It's good that you can rest, then you can accompany me. If you go to work and Meng Meng goes to school, I will be at home alone and feel lonely." "Huh?" Upon hearing her papa's words, Meng Meng was confused and put down the ice cream quickly. She said hurriedly, "Papa, you won't be lonely, you won't. I will be by your side. Then, I will not go to school." It seemed that the decision had been made pleasantly. Before the little girl finished her words, Xian said, "You can't do that, Meng Meng. You should go to school. During the day, you can come to work with Mama along with your papa." I want to accompany Papa." "You can accompany him after you get back from school in the afternoon." As a result, Xian and Meng Meng started chit-chatting in the back seats. When they went back to the restaurant, Zhif, Zhang Li, Liang Hao, his sister, Zhao Feng, and all the members of Wang Jiaxin's family were all there. They had prepared the ingredients to cook hot pot for dinner. Originally, Ujimkin sheep, Hungarian sheep pig, and Kobe beef were high-end ingredients. If the sheep, pigs, and cows were raised on Mount New Moon for some time, the quality of their meat would be improved several levels. Hungarian sheep pig meat was also Dai's favorite. However, since there were only 50 Hungarian sheep pigs, the Hungarian sheep pig meat was consumed fast. Fortunately, the restaurant had Pearson, who could purchase some quite rare ingredients continuously. Zhang Han did not make the kind of dishes like egg fried rice for dinner. Though this restaurant was not running anymore, the normal eaters would also go to the canteen on the second floor of the company to eat. After all, within a few days, they would move to Mount New Moon. During that period, Zhao Feng told Zhang Han about the situation going on in the past 2 days. Various kinds of necessities, like the furniture for the castle on the mountain, arrived one after another. As for some customized items, such as the bed pads and the wardrobe, they were still going through an expedited production process. Meanwhile, the electricity had been set up. 2 other planes that they had purchased were also sent over. The construction of the airport was already completed. Everything went on methodically. Zhang Han was not greatly interested in these issues. He only nodded in response. Zhang Han did not pay attention to many things currently. He had reminded Lieutenant that he should inform him if there were any other relic sites at Class C or above. If the relic sites were not too far away, he intended to go there to look for treasures. Since the door to the worldlet would open soon, of course he should make some preparations if there was an opportunity. After dinner, it was not until 9 o'clock that everybody left one after another. Zhang Han locked the door and played with Meng for a while on the second floor. At 10:30 p.m., Zhang Han coaxed Meng into sleeping. As always, he told her stories. Meng was quite absorbed in the kind of adventure stories like The Elves and the King and Secretive and Dark King of the Elves. However, sleepiness soon came over her. Dozens of minutes later, Meng fell asleep heavily. Zhang Han put the little lass on the little bed gently. After that, he went back to his big bed and held up Xian directly, who was staring at him with her big eyes. "What are you doing?" Xian's beautiful face flushed slightly. Hee. Zhang Han chuckled and went to the ensuite bedroom in a hurry while holding Xian in his arms. He waved his palm. A set of business soul makeup for fun showed up on the bed. "You are naughty. The most precious time is priceless." More than half an hour later, Zhang Han called out in a low voice. His state of mind was caught off guard at this moment. Bang! In an instant, the cloud clusters above his soul sense sea converged. The lightning flashed, and the thunder rumbled. This time, 2 thunderbolts formed at the same time, which was good, while there had been only 1 lightning bolt previously. This was because Zhang Han had been suppressing his state of mind. However, the additional thunder threw Zhang Han into confusion. As he was about to enjoy the comfort of the remaining charm relaxedly, his soul sense sea began to fluster. Helplessly, Zhang Han distracted his mind and continued suppressing the cloud clusters above his soul sense sea. If he did not break through to the innateness, he had to keep suppressing his soul sense sea. There was such a long way ahead. At 8 o'clock the next morning, Xian, who had tidied herself up, held Meng's hands and followed Zhang Han out as she said, "Time to go to school." As for going to kindergarten, Meng already had a comprehensive knowledge of it, except for the fact that her papa was not around. The rest of it was quite fun. After they got in the car, they arrived at St. Kindergarten at 8:25 a.m. After Zhang Han walked Meng into kindergarten and came back to the panda car, Xian sat in the passenger seat. As Zhang Han was about to start the car, crack! An intern journalist named Wu Wai across the entrance to the kindergarten snapped a photo at the entrance to St. Kindergarten. Wu Wai thought, the luxurious cars are as abundant as raindrops. It seems there are too many reports like this. I wonder whether I can pass the test or not. The young man with a crew cut, who was over 20 years old, scratched his head and glimpsed at the picture. He instantly saw a Rolls-Royce Ghost, which was followed by a row of luxurious cars. It was not until he had been waiting for half an hour that there came a chance for multiple luxurious cars to be together. Well? All of a sudden, he was at a loss, frowned, and said disgustedly, "It's ruined again. Who is the driver?" He jumped in the line while driving a panda car. HMPH, I can only come here again to take another picture in the evening. Wu Wai patted his forehead annoyedly. He walked forward to the front of a motorcycle by the road and rode on the motorcycle. held his camera, and looked over the picture, which had cost him half an hour. He thought, should I edit it? He stared at the picture and looked it over carefully. Since the panda car was quite obvious in the rear, it would work if he edited the picture. However, the next moment, he fixed his eyes as he said, "It seems there is a young, handsome, and beautiful couple in the car." He zoomed in on the picture and saw the couple in the car were staring at each other while showing the side of their faces. Only the man's side face could be seen. As for the woman, a great half of her delicate face could be seen. So beautiful, she looks familiar. Ah! The man exclaimed all of a sudden and opened his cell phone in a hurry. He input the name Zhan and looked at the pictures shown in the search results. After that, he stared at the picture in his camera and said excitedly, "FCK, breaking news." He dialed through the supervisor's number and said excitedly, "Supervisor, I took a picture of Zhan unconsciously. She stayed in a car with a handsome young man. The look on her face indicates that they are intimate. Who are you talking about? Is it Zhan? Is it true?" Well, as for this, the way I see it, the probability of a match based on the similarity of the profile in the picture is above 95%. SHH, you come back right now. The supervisor could not help gasping. Since Zhan was a hot topic now, any news related to her would be valuable. Consequently, Wu Wei rushed back quickly. He went into the office of the supervisor with his camera. Half an hour later, he walked out, smiling happily and excitedly. It turned out the picture was real. He had done a deed of merit and would become a regular employee the next day. Besides, he got a bonus of $20,000, which made him feel like he had run into dumb luck. Zhang Han drove Zhan to her company. She had some complicated work to do in the next few days. Zhang Han would be occupied today since he could not stop refining the Serene World stone. Consequently, he could not cook lunch and had no choice but to ask Zhan to arrange Meng's lunch. After they said goodbye to each other, Zhang Han drove to Mount New Moon. He directly drove to the front of the castle. At this moment, the mountain seethed and teemed with life. Though the greenness had become less, more and more human energy and vitality showed up there. Many staff members from various companies went back and forth as they were setting up various kinds of furniture. When Zhang Han had been there for 2 minutes, Wang Zanping walked over while holding the Serene World stone and the demon dancing sword in his hands. Wang Zanping said, "Han, the demon dancing sword is somewhat disobedient. It becomes heavier and heavier, till now, it weighs thousands of pounds. Got it?" Zhang Han nodded and stretched his right hand forward. A drop of blood flew from his fingers, transformed into a piece of light-colored arms, and encircled the sword. "Shake it." A fiery red color flashed across Zhang Han's eyes. He suppressed the demon dancing sword once again. Speaking of the superiority of these two fourth-stage spirit treasures, the demon dancing sword was at a higher level. This was because there was a hint of spirituality inside the demon dancing sword. Wang Zanping felt that the sword in his hand became lighter and asked in great surprise, "What is the name of the trick?" A kind of trick like this was an eye-opener for him. Up until now, he could not see where Zhang Han's limit lay. Zhang Han had dazzling tricks, making him feel dazzled. Zhang Han responded as he said, "A trick of suppressing the spirituality in the object." Oh. Though Wang Zanping did not get the point, he still nodded. "I will refine the Serene World stone first." As Zhang Han spoke, he walked from the back door on the ground floor of the castle to the front of the Thunder Yang tree. At this moment, both Dai and Little Hai walked over. Ooh, ooh, ooh. They barked, indicating that they were here to accompany Zhang Han. Chapter 503, Meng's bottom line. Zhang Han stared at both Dai and Little Hai and nodded with a smile. He muttered to himself irresolutely and thought, the trip to the relic site in Nanxing was quite rewarding. However, as for the spiritual treasures for refining precious medicines, the refined medicinal pellets were not beneficial to Dai and Little Hai. At that time, he would ask Zhao Feng to hand them out. Moreover, Since these two were spiritual beasts at the initial stage of Grand Master, they needed many resources. However, is the golden armor suitable for Dai or not? Zhang Han took a glimpse at Dai. Dai had a large body, more than 3 meters tall. If Dai was dressed in the suit of golden armor, it would probably look formidable and awe-inspiring. However, it was somewhat difficult to make the golden armor acknowledge Dai as its owner. After all, the golden armor had been refined for many years with Yilong Yiyuan's authentic spiritual blood. It was very difficult to drive Yilong Yiyuan's authentic spiritual blood completely out of the armor. In Zhang Han's opinion, if he intended to get it done forcibly, the loss would outweigh the gain. Although the golden armor was a 4th stage spirit treasure, Dai's skin was almost the same as a 3rd stage spirit treasure. The same was true for Little Hai's teeth. This beast consumed the jade stone directly and resolutely, never fearing that its teeth would get hurt. Consequently, Dai and Little Hai did not need other spirit treasures to support them specifically. After Wang Zanping saw Zhang Han taking out the 5 elements furnace, he asked, "Han, does it bother you if I stand over here and watch?" Some masters of refining precious medicine would not like to have standers-by on the scene. He wondered if Zhang Han had any rules while refining the holy objects and if he would be too shy to speak his mind. Consequently, he took the initiative to ask. Zhang Han shook his head slightly as he replied, "No, it doesn't. Normally, it would take several days to refine the precious medicine if there was a 4th stage spirit treasure. However, if Zhang Han intended to refine the Serene World Stone completely, 1 day would be barely enough." Zhang Han responded and waved his right hand. The Serene World Stone in Wang Zanping's hands floated, landed on the upper mouth of the 5 elements furnace, and stuck there. After all, the size of the stone was too large. It could not get into the furnace. The fiery stone was on fire. As Zhang Han exerted his spiritual force and soul sense, the process of refining began. Soon, a drop of liquid dripped from the bottom of the Serene World Stone. This was the first step of the refining process, namely, transforming the Serene World Stone into a liquid state. Zhang Han would continue refining the stone until it became an essence, whose size was the same as that of the nails of 3 pinky fingers. After that, he would blend a quite complicated special formation into it and refine it with his authentic spiritual blood. In the end, he would divide it into 3 pieces and assign 1 to each of his family members. If anything happened, Zhang Han could control the stones and generate a gateway. However, the distance the gateway could reach was limited. As for how far it could reach, that would depend on to what extent Zhang Han could refine the Serene World Stone. If the Serene World Stone was refined to the 4th stage, Zhang Han estimated that the gateway could reach as far as the whole Hong Kong region. Zhang Han sat with legs crossed beneath the Thunder Yang tree and began refining the stone. Dai sat behind Zhang Han directly, leaned on the trunk of the Thunder Yang tree, and took a nap. Little Hai sat by his side, looking vigorous. Wang Zanping did not know what he should do. He observed for a while and did not see any changes. Consequently, he sneaked to the back mountain to go fishing. Meanwhile, in Class 5 in an academic building of St. Kindergarten, Lugo stood on the platform and said smilingly, "Classmates, this is Teacher Deng, who is new here. Teacher Deng will preside over your Cantonese courses. Moreover, Teacher Deng will play some interesting games with you when you are engaged in outdoor activities. Everyone, let's applaud and welcome Teacher Deng." As the voice of Lugo faded away, all the students applauded. Lugo was a teacher who took personal charge of the work shifts. She also taught Mandarin and knew a lot. Previously, 2 teachers who were in charge of the Cantonese and English courses were also females. That was because the previous male teacher had resigned. Normally, each class would be assigned with 2 female teachers and 1 male teacher. Among the 3 teachers, 1 would take personal charge of the work shifts. As for the other 2, they normally would be by the students' side all day or half of the day. In the field related to children's education, The experts once reported that the children's character cultivation and quality formation was the same as taking in food. Nutrition should be balanced. Only the coexistence of both male and female and harmony between yin and yang was the real meaning. It was especially true in the phases of kindergarten and primary school. This was because it was a formative phase for the children's behavior and habits. Every action and every word of the teacher would affect the children, helping them form their characters. Consequently, St. Kindergarten had been following this way to assign the teachers to each class. However, there were not enough amazing male teachers. Though there were many high-end kindergartens, the kind of authentically amazing male teacher was quite popular. Deng Bo, who stood in front of the students, was a perfect example. Though he was only 27 years old, he was an expert on children's education. His annual salary was above millions of dollars. As for how much it was in total, nobody knew. That was because the contract he had signed was only signed between the principal and himself. Upon seeing everybody applauding, Deng Bo, who had short hair and looked somewhat energetic, nodded smilingly, and said, "Hello, everyone, thanks for applauding. That's enough. That's enough. Stop applauding. If you clap your hands until it hurts you, I will feel guilty about it. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Deng Bo. You can call me Teacher Deng. On usual days, I will take care of your Cantonese courses. Since you have taken part in the Cantonese courses several times and have some basic understanding of Cantonese, I will test you soon and see whether you are smart or not." Deng Bo started the lesson of the Cantonese course directly. While Deng Bo was teaching, he stared at the students, who were studying conscientiously and actively. A hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. As expected, St. Kindergarten's reputation was well deserved. As Deng Bo was teaching, Lugo sat in the front seat for several minutes and then went to the rear of the classroom. She sat in a chair, took out the famous English novel Gone with the Wind from the side, and started looking through it. Ailey, the English teacher, was sitting in a chair on the left edge of the platform. She glimpsed at the students and Deng Bo from time to time. Her first impression of this young and amazing teacher Deng was quite good. She intended to get to know him. Consequently, after the class was over, Deng Bo sat in a chair in the front row and stared at the students smilingly, who were hanging around in the classroom. Ailey grabbed a chair, walked over, and sat by his side as she said, "Hello, Deng Bo. My name is Ailey. Hello." Deng Bao shook hands with Ailey and nodded politely. After that, he stared at the students, who were playing with each other, and smiled as he said, "They are all quite smart." "Yes, they are." Ailey, who agreed with Deng Bo, nodded and said, "Some students are familiar with 2 languages, some even know English, Mandarin, and Cantonese at the same time. For example, the golden-haired child, whose name is Stephen, is quite adept in Mandarin and knows some basic Cantonese. Besides, the cute and lovely Meng Meng is pretty good at both English and Mandarin. She also knows some Cantonese and is studying it now." Several children who were playing by their side took notice of what their teacher had said. As Meng Meng and Stephen heard their teacher mentioning their names, they looked over curiously. Deng Bo nodded approvingly. Since the students are picked out after layer upon layer of selection, they are indeed capable. Ailey thought of what had happened this morning and found it funny. Consequently, she told Deng Bo what she had seen in the morning in detail. "When I arrived here this morning, I came across Meng Meng's father, who drove a panda car here. The panda car is very cute, which had 2 ears on it. Her father looks masculine. Originally, I had thought he would drive a huge SUV." Deng Bo was confused and asked, "What is a panda car?" Ailey replied, "It is a kind of very small car, which looks pretty cute." "Does it look like a panda?" "Oh, is it the kind of Geely panda, whose price is tens of thousands of dollars?" "It seems it is." Deng Bo smiled gently, chatted with Ailey, and said, "The kind of car does look pretty cute." He would not look down upon nor think highly of his students based on whether their families were rich or not. In some ways, people were equal. At least, that would be the case in his courses. Though they did not talk loudly, several students still overheard their conversation. A plump boy who stood in front of Meng Meng while holding a small car toy took a glimpse at Meng Meng, walked to in front of her, and said, "Meng Meng, why does your father drive a car that is only worth thousands of dollars?" "Ah?" Meng Meng was at a loss as she said, "I don't know." The fair-skinned and plump boy said solemnly, "Could it be that your family is not rich? My small car even costs several thousands of dollars. Meng Meng, I am Wang Kai. You can be my good friend so that I can ask my father to give your father an expensive car as a gift. Is that okay?" "Huh?" Meng Meng was at a loss again and said, "My papa is rich. My papa is the most amazing." Wang Kai just intended to make friends with Meng Meng, however, he was not good at expressing himself. His words made Meng Meng slightly feel that he looked down upon her papa, which made her feel somewhat uncomfortable inside. As for that, Wang Kai scratched his head and became somewhat anxious as he said, "What you said is not right. My father is a big boss and quite rich. According to my father, the poor are not smart and are incapable. Your father runs a small-sized restaurant and does not make much money. If you play with me, I will ask my father to send a car to your father as a gift. It's not like that." Meng Meng felt wronged in an instant. Her voice raised 3 decibels. She said, "I will not be your friend. I hate you. My father is the best." After Meng Meng finished her words, she burst out crying. Swish. Lugo, Denbo, and Ailey, who had been staring at the students from the back row, all stood up and walked in Meng Meng's direction with quick paces. Wang Yihan, who was behind Meng Meng, responded the quickest as she said, "Meng Meng, why are you crying? Wang Kai, you dare to bully Meng Meng." She put down her toy in a hurry and saw Wang Kai standing in front of Meng Meng. She ran over and knocked Wang Kai down on the floor firmly. Wang Kai, who was confused, cried out immediately. Consequently, the situation became somewhat messy. Lugo squatted down and comforted Meng Meng gently as she said, "Meng Meng, don't cry. What's going on? Didn't you talk with Wang Kai happily? Tell me the details." Upon seeing the scene, Dengbo pulled Wang Kai over and comforted him gently. It was not until Meng Meng had been comforted for 1 minute that she sobbed as she said, "He said that papa is incapable and stupid. It's not true. My papa is the best. I hate him. I want my papa. I want to look for my papa." Lugo had experience with this kind of situation. As she agreed with Meng Meng, she comforted her. It was not until 2 minutes later that Meng Meng stopped crying. At this moment, she turned her head back and saw that Dengbo had successfully comforted Wang Kai. Lugo waved her hands, indicating that Dengbo should bring Wang Kai to her side. She said, "Wang Kai, did you say that Meng Meng's father was not smart?" "Teacher, I didn't. I just wanted to play with Meng Meng. Since her father only drives a car worth thousands of dollars, I want my father to send a good car to her father as a gift." Lugo was confused slightly. She thought for a while and said, "Meng Meng, he did not mean that. He expressed his meaning in the wrong way." "Wang Kai, you did not express your meaning clearly, so, how is it now?" Wang Kai lowered his head as he said, I feel so sorry, Meng Meng. HMPH. Meng Meng turned her head back and did not want to pay attention to him. Lugo chuckled as she said, "Meng Meng, Wang Kai said he was sorry. What should you say?" Under Lugo's staring, Meng Meng said, "It's okay. All right, it is a misunderstanding. Next time, Meng Meng, you should turn to your teachers first." Well, Wang Yihan, Lugo saw Wang Yihan standing behind Wang Yihan, smiled helplessly, and waved her hands as she said, "You come to the teacher's side." Upon hearing her teacher's words, Wang Yihan walked over with small steps. "You should be friendly with your classmates. How can you push your classmates? You should." Before Lugo finished her words, Wang Yihan replied, "Whoever bullies Meng Meng, I will beat them." Upon hearing Wang Yihan's reply, The corner of Lugo's lips shuddered slightly. Several students, including Stephen, Martin, and Moon, said one after another, "Yes, Meng Meng is so good, it's all Wang Kai's fault." Lugo was at a loss again, though Meng Meng was just new in the class. How did she even have a team of protection guards? However, upon seeing that Wang Kai was going to cry again, Lugo alleviated the situation in a hurry. In the end, Wang Yihan apologized, calling an end to the scene. Deng Bo and Daly also advised Lugo that they had not paid attention to the conversation. Lugo did not say anything at all. In her opinion, the root cause of the issue lay on the parents' side. As she was about to have a lunch break, she called Wang Kai's father. Influenced by what they constantly had seen or heard in their environment, children would learn some knowledge, including both good things and bad things. The same was true with an amazing education. An amazing education would amplify the good things infinitely and compress the bad things unlimitedly. Since Wang Kai had these kinds of thoughts, in Lugo's opinion, the problem was serious. She had to have a good conversation with his father. Children's sentiment came and went fast. Soon, the students started the second course. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the whole piece of serene world stone was refined into some liquid, which was still being condensed continuously. Gradually, when the size of the stone was almost the same as that of a palm, the stone became a thin and glistening sheet, whose energy was quite strong. Another hour passed by. The sheet was divided into 3 pieces. The size of each piece was the same as that of a pinky nail. Zhang Han started engraving and recording the formation tricks with more effort. Finally, at almost 4 o'clock, the formation is done. Zhang Han opened his eyes. A green light flashed across his eyes. The refining was done successfully. He waved his palm. 3 transparent sheets flew out of the furnace. The whole process went stably. No fluctuation of energy was thus caused. However, there was a function inside the delicate and transparent sheet that Zhang Han valued very much. After all, it was a treasure that many talents from the world lit had been fighting for. If Yilong Yuan or Mugs had attained enlightenment, both the golden armor and demon dancing sword would have been elevated to holy objects. What was a holy object? Someone even said that if a martial artist at the Grandmaster late stage held a holy object in their hand, they could fight with God-state strong ones. A holy object was equivalent to an assistant at the divine realm. The way the people in the secular world saw it, it would be completely unbelievable. The holy object could exert all of its functions in the hands of a God-state strong one. However, the lower the state the holder was at, the more limited the function of the holy object would be exerted. Han, are you done with the refining? Both Wang Zanping and Wang Ming, who were at the back mountain, ran over. When Wang Ming had come here this afternoon, he had checked on Zhang Han, then went fishing with Wang Zanping. I could not put up with the loneliness. After it had been sleeping behind Zhang Han for 2 hours, it got up, played, and rolled on the back mountain. Little Hai was by its side. They had gone to the dense forest to barbecue something. Others did not need to be concerned about their food and drink. They knew how to use fragrant wood. They got down to barbecue without adding any other flavoring at all. Speaking of drinking, they drank the spirit water. Since they did not need to worry about food and drink, they were fit and happy. At this moment, after Zhang Han heard the question, he nodded and said, "Yes." Wang Zanping looked around and asked, "Why can't I see anything at all?" "That's because the precious medicine is transparent, which can't be seen with naked eyes," Zhang Han replied. Before they asked further questions, Zhang Han said, "It's late, I have to hurry to pick up Meng Meng." Wang Zanping felt somewhat ticklish as he said, "Then, you should go quickly." Well, after he had been staring at him for 2 seconds gaspingly, he said in the end, "Han, as for the 100 formation image you mentioned, tomorrow morning." Zhang Han thought for a while and said, "Prepare 999 pieces of jade stones. Ordinary quality jade stones will do, I don't need them to be high quality." Wang Zanping nodded as he said, "Okay, then, I will ask someone to prepare the jade stones. There are hundreds of stones at home. It will suffice if we buy some more. Okay, Zhang Han responded and took a stride to leave. After he got in the panda car, he drove out quickly. As Zhang Han just drove from New Moon Bay, his cell phone rang. Honey, are you done with your chores? Did you pick up Meng Meng or not? I'm on my way. I just drove out of New Moon Bay and will arrive there within 20 minutes. Zhang Han replied, when will you finish your chores? About 6 o'clock. I will be occupied for 3 consecutive days since the task needs to be finished urgently. Zhang Han smiled as he said, okay, then, I will cook for dinner after I get home. Though you are busy, you should not be exhausted. I won't, hee hee. By the way, honey, I got pink news. Zhang Han was confused and asked, what is it? The pink news is about us. When we took Meng Meng to kindergarten, we were spotted in the car. The news was just spread in Hong Kong. Fei held a meeting with the public relations department and decided that we should leave the pink news alone temporarily. As the saying goes, gossip always goes around the popular guys. Gossip means traffic flow in the internet era. If there is not any news about one, it indicates that one will be doomed. Zhang Han replied, it's like this, you don't need to bother with the news, it doesn't concern you. Okay, go to pick up Meng Meng, I will attend to my chores first. After a few words, they hung up the phone. Soon, Zhang Han arrived at St. Kindergarten, then stood in line and picked Meng Meng up. After they got in the car, Meng Meng sat in the back seat. After she told Zhang Han about the Cantonese that she had learned today, she thought of the issue, pouted her lips, and said, Papa, I don't like Wang Kai. If he were Xian, he would have asked, why, what is the reason? You should be friendly with your classmates and help each other. Xian would say something like that. However, Zhang Han chuckled as he said, if you don't like him, you can just ignore him. Meng Meng said earnestly, HMPH, I did not talk to him today. He said that Papa was not rich since you ran a small-sized restaurant. He said according to his father, if one is not rich, one is stupid and incapable. He also wanted to give you an expensive car as a gift. I felt unhappy about that. Later on, he said that he did not mean that. He said so because he wanted to play with me. He also apologized to me. Even so, I am still unhappy. Papa is the best. Oh, Meng Meng, you can play with the ones you like. If you don't like someone, just ignore them. You don't need to care about others' opinions. Meng Meng pouted her tender lips as she said, it won't do. Papa, you are the best. I won't allow others to judge you no matter who they are. Meng Meng's words made Zhang Han feel gratified. He felt somewhat peculiar inwardly. Was it the feeling of being caressed? In some ways, he was being caressed. Zhang Han smiled as he said, ha, all right, I will be obedient to your words. HMPH. Meng Meng sat up all of a sudden and said, Papa, Yihan pushed Wang Kai down and cried too. That cute plump girl. Zhang Han smiled, shook his head, and said, then, you should tell her that I will give her a few more pieces of meat tomorrow. Ho, she definitely will be very happy. Meng Meng imagined what Wang Yihan's expression would look like tomorrow and smiled happily. Chapter 504, Brother-in-law will be punished. After they went back to the restaurant, Zhang Han started preparing dinner, and because the operation of the restaurant had been terminated, it saved Zhang Han some time. Meng Meng sat on the sofa on the ground floor watching cartoons. Zhang Han had specifically given her a bag of fried chips. The little girl was enjoying the chips complacently. Sounds of crunching rang out from time to time. As Zhang Han leaned on the counter in the kitchen, he took out his call phone, opened the browser, and looked through the latest news related to Xian. He found out the relative news was still about Xian's songs, the Purple Moon Entertainment Company, the filming, and the hot songs. There were only 2 pieces of news related to the pink news. whose titles were the mystifying boyfriend of the popular star, Xian. Since the title had a question mark, it indicated that the author was not sure yet. Zhang Han clicked on the link and found out that the piece of news was a forwarded one. However, there was a picture in the article. It was true that Xian and Zhang Han were in the picture, which showed that they were in a car not far away from the entrance of St. Kindergarten. Zhang Han stared at Xian in the picture in his hand, who was beautiful, and could not help sighing as he said, "It is true that Xian looks beautiful in the photo." In fact, Zhang Han was immune to beauties, even if the beauty was Xian. At first, he had not cared about her very much. However, they had Meng Meng. At first, Zhang Han had liked Xian because of his love for Meng Meng. However, he found out gradually that they were family members to each other. He was attracted by Xian unconsciously, which was an inexplicable thing. In addition to this photo, there were several artistic photos of Xian in the article. The report said, by comparing the mouth, chin, ears, and so on, the degree of the similarities was as high as 99%, which confirmed the possibility that the female in the photo was exactly Xian. Then, these questions follow. Who on earth was the man by Xian's side? How are they related? Why were they in front of the entrance to St. Kindergarten? Could it be that Xian had gotten married in secret? What on earth is the hidden secret? Kindly look forward to the following report. Zhang Han did not know whether to laugh or cry and thought, so, they will track it and issue a further report? How can it be? However, the report was indeed eye-catching. Following that, Zhang Han opened a local browser that he frequently used and began browsing through Xian's news. Swish. News related to Xian's pink news came overwhelmingly, which popped out one after another. Xian is married and has a child, who was caught by the camera while sending her child to school. Xian is married to a rich man. Who on earth is the mystifying man? What on earth has happened to Xian during the period when she had been secluded from the entertainment industry for 5 years? There were various guesses, which could dazzle people into blindness. As Zhang Han browsed the news, his cell phone rang. It was a call from Luo Shan. Zhang Han picked up the call and said, "Mr. Luo." Luo Shan spoke straightforwardly, "Hello, Mr. Zhang. The reason why I am calling you is that there are many pieces of news related to you and Miss Zhang since you had been spotted at the entrance to the kindergarten. A moment ago, my patriarch asked me if I should push the related news down. If you think I should, then I'd be pleased to help you out." Upon hearing his words, Zhang Han smiled and said, "Mr. Luo, thanks for your kindness. You can leave this issue alone for now." "Okay, Mr. Zhang. If you need any help, kindly contact me anytime you want." "Okay." Zhang Han directly hung up the call after talking with Luo Shan for a while. Luo Shan's call showed that once a martial artist was socially superior to some extent, they would be influential. When it came to some things, they did not even need to speak. A lot of people would ask them in advance if they needed any help. It was not an exaggeration to say that as long as Zhang Han said he needed money, he would receive hundreds of billions of dollars within minutes without even paying the relative interest. After Zhang Han hung up the call, he took a glimpse at the clock, planning to cook dinner at 6, so that when Xian came back home, they could just eat dinner. Zhang Han thought for a while, dialed another number, and said simply, "Xiao Feng, drive some cars over tomorrow morning." Because his little princess had felt unhappy since others had said her father was incapable, then it was all right. Zhang Han thought, "I will show you what I have in detail." Though Zhang Han did not care about others' opinions about him, he cared about his little princess. Soon, Xian and Zif came back to the restaurant at 6 o'clock. "Mama, Mama, you've come back." Meng Meng bared her tender feet and stepped on the sofa joyfully. Upon seeing Meng Meng, Xian smiled sweetly, walked over and put her shoulder bag down beside her, held Meng Meng up, and kissed her. Whoops. Meng Meng is heavier. Mama can't hold you up anymore. Meng Meng refuted her mother as she said, "No, I am not heavy. Papa said I am pretty lightweight when he held me. She thought, HMPH, I am also fond of looking good. I am not heavy at all. Xian put Meng Meng on the sofa and asked smilingly, were you obedient at school today? Yes, I was. Meng Meng responded. After that, she said, Mama, I don't like Wang Kai anymore. Xian was astounded and asked, Wang Kai, is he your classmate? Meng Meng pouted her lips as she said, he. Today, after Meng Meng finished her story, Zif grinned as she said, you favor your father so much. Meng Meng said somewhat proudly, Mama, Papa said that I can just ignore Wang Kai if I don't like him. He even said he would give Yihan more pieces of meat as a reward. As for the reason why she was proud, it was unknown. Xian did not know whether to laugh or cry. If you do not like someone, you can just ignore them. Though it seemed that what Zhang Han had said was not faulty at all, Xian still felt that something had gone wrong. After she pondered for a while, she took a glimpse at Zhang Han first, who was cooking in the kitchen, and looked at Meng Meng as she said, Wang Kai must have said these words to you unintentionally. He did not do it on purpose. He is little and does not understand all of these things. Since he apologized to you, you should say everything is fine now and forgive him. Meng Meng, you can try to make friends with him later on. Zif reminded her as she said, Whoa, elder sister Yan, as the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. Since Meng Meng does not like him, she should play with someone she likes. It will also be the same when she grows up. Whether it's in class or in society, everybody has people they like and dislike. In Zif's opinion, it was not necessary to make friends with everyone. What I said means the same as what you said. If she dislikes him, I will not force her to do that. While talking, Xian stared at Meng Meng, touched her cheek, and said, Meng Meng, though you are beautiful and cute, that does not mean everybody will like you. If someone dislikes you, as your father said, you should just ignore them. If some bad people bully you, you should ask your papa to teach them a lesson. Oh, Meng Meng responded. The look on her face indicated that she seemed to have gotten Xian's point. She pouted her lips as she said, there are no bad people at all. Mama, I learned several lines of Cantonese today. Let me show you. As a result, Meng Meng and Xian started chit-chatting. Zif, who sat by their side, took out her cell phone and checked the news and report, which she paid attention to all the time. If she found out there were some extremely distorted reports, she would inform the company as soon as possible. After Zif had been browsing through the news for 10 minutes, Zhang Han put the dishes on the round dining table. Time for dinner. Here we come. Xian held Meng Meng's hands and led her to the bathroom to wash her hands. Zif put away her cell phone and followed behind them. As she walked, she said, Sister Yan, the pink news is everywhere, and the effect is good. Probably it will spread in mainland China. News spreads fast on the internet now. Everybody is guessing who on earth the brother-in-law is. There are many interesting reports. As the trend of various kinds of reports became more and more critical, the local entertainment company in Hong Kong felt somewhat astonished. It did not occur to them that the traffic flow related to Xian's topic would be so abundant. Sometimes, as for how to measure the level of a star, it would be the traffic flow. If one had many fans, his or her traffic flow would be abundant, which was highly favored by the merchants. After dinner, it was not until 9:30 p.m. that Zif left. At 10 o'clock, the family members lay on the bed together. It was not until Zhang Han had been telling the stories for more than 10 minutes that Meng Meng fell asleep gradually. At this moment, Zhang Han took the portal out that had been refined by the Serene World Stone. Xian asked curiously, what is it? Xian could see the profile of the portal vaguely in the gentle light. Zhang Han chuckled as he said, it is a treasure. Whenever you run into the danger, I will stand by your side directly. Come here, stretch your hands out. Upon hearing Zhang Han's words, Xian stretched her hands out obediently and put them in front of Zhang Han, who seemed to be waiting for Zhang Han to put a ring on her. Zhang Han chuckled as he asked, one hand is enough. Which hand would you like the ring to be on? Xian put her right hand in front of Zhang Han and said, as the saying goes, the left is for males, the right is for females. Then, the right hand. Zhang Han took the chance to kiss Xian. He moved his fingers. A sheet of serene world stone landed on the right wrist of Xian. Zoom. A light flashed and a mark shone on Xian's right wrist. The mark disappeared 2 seconds later. It seemed that the mark had not ever existed at all. Following that, Zhang Han took control of another sheet of stone, making it land on Meng Meng's right wrist. As the last sheet of stone landed on his left wrist, he exerted his soul sense and instantly sensed the connection between the 3 sheets. Xian stared at her wrist, muttered, and said, "So strange. Did it hide beneath my skin, or did I absorb it? It is just attached to your wrist." Xian asked somewhat adorably, "Then, if I absorb something, will it be gone?" Xian's words made Zhang Han break into a laughing fit. Of course it won't. They talked for another 10 minutes and fell asleep while holding each other in their arms. The next morning, it rained lightly with a trickle in Hong Kong. Since Xian needed to be in a hurry to finish her work in the last few days, Zif arrived at 7 a.m. After she ate breakfast with Xian, they headed for the company together. After Zhang Han tied up Meng Meng's plaits by himself upstairs, he stood up and said, "Meng Meng, it's time to go to school." Meng Meng strapped on her backpack as she said, "Time to go to school. After this week, we should have red flowers next week." Zhang Han smiled as he said, "Should you? Then, Papa will be waiting for your little red flower." He pondered for a while and added, "It is okay if you can't, anyway. I definitely can get one." Teacher Lu praised me, saying that I definitely could get many red flowers. "You are so amazing." Zhang Han held Meng Meng's tender hands cheerfully. After they went downstairs, they saw Zhao Feng sitting on the edge of a chair. Meng Meng waved her hands and greeted him, "Uncle Xiaofeng." Zhao Feng smiled amiably, stood up with a big umbrella in his hand, and said, "Good morning, Meng Meng." After they walked out of the restaurant, Zhao Feng held up the umbrella for Meng Meng. He did not pay attention to his master since he knew all he needed to do was to take care of Meng Meng. It did not rain heavily. Whether people used an umbrella or not, they would be fine. The rain was just somewhat heavier than a drizzle. There were some pedestrians on the street, few of them held up an umbrella. However, they all stared in the direction of the street side and exclaimed surprisedly from time to time. Even Meng Meng was surprised when she saw the scene in front of her. She asked, "Well, Papa, why are there so many people here?" There were 10 phantoms by the street, namely, from the Rolls-Royce Zenith collection, and in the back of the line, there were 3 Maybach Zeppelins and 5 supercars in each direction. As for both sides of each car, 2 men stood on each side, who were all dressed in Western clothes and leather shoes and wore white gloves. They stood on the edge uniformly. The looks on their faces were cold and distant. Of course, they were members of the security guards group. However, there was a panda car in the middle, which seemed to be a green leaf amid a crowd of red flowers. Generally, any random car among all the luxurious cars surrounding the panda car definitely would be eye-catching on the street. However, the panda car became an eye-catching focus now. After hearing Meng Meng's question, Zhang Han smiled gently and said, "This is a car procession to escort you to school." Meng Meng asked confusedly, "Huh? One car is enough. Why do we need that many cars here?" "Well, it's because if we do so, it will indicate that we are super rich." Zhang Han's answer made Zhao Feng raise the corner of his lips. He thought that in some ways, his master was somewhat capricious. He estimated that if his master's wife knew about this, she definitely would not allow others to accompany Meng Meng to school the next day. While they were talking, Meng Meng got in the back seat of the panda car. As Zhang Han was starting the car, Zhao Feng ran to the Rolls-Royce ahead of them, held a walkie-talkie, and monitored the motorcade. As a result, the motorcade swaggered through the street and caught much attention. They had left home at 8 o'clock. By the time they arrived at the entrance to the kindergarten, it was 8:25 a.m. No parking spots were available there. The parents who had escorted their children here came and went continuously. However, as they walked, they fixed their eyes. They saw a long procession of luxurious cars driving toward the kindergarten slowly that stopped directly in the middle of the road in front of the entrance to the kindergarten. Though both the cars ahead and behind the motorcade could not pass through, nobody dared to say anything at this moment. They're here, they're here. FK, something goes wrong. The news turns out to be true. Here's a King super rich guy. I guessed it right. Xian's boyfriend in the pink news must be amazing. Is it true that she got married to a rich guy? Why is she here again? Swish. Could it be that her child could even walk around? Take photos quickly. This piece of news will be King breaking. Dozens of paparazzi were squatting across the entrance to the kindergarten, seeing if whether or not they could run into the kind of breaking news like from yesterday. It turned out that their wish had come true. Due to the rain, many platform awnings had been set up inside, where lay the children's reserved small umbrellas. Many teachers also noticed the scene at the entrance and saw the abnormally eye-catching panda car. Lugo was slightly confused, who seemed to have figured out something. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Lugo mumbled as she said, "This, he does spoil his child." She had communicated with both Zhang Han and Xian and found out that Meng Meng's mother was much more rational. As for Meng Meng's father, under a lot of people's eyes as well as the sounds of photos being taken with a snap, people in the motorcade all got out of the cars, and sounds of bang, bang, bang rang out. They all stood on both sides of the car. People in the Phantom in the back took out a long roll of red carpet, put it in front of the back door of the panda car, and stretched it ahead. Many people were somewhat confused and thought, it is somewhat excessive to use a red carpet to make the path, isn't it? After that, they saw Zhang Han getting out of the car, who opened the back door of the car and held Meng Meng's hands. As they got out, people held up an umbrella for them on both sides. As they walked forward, Meng Meng asked, "Papa, why are they all staring at us?" It is because Meng Meng looks good and beautiful. "Papa, you are also handsome." Meng Meng walked into the kindergarten cheerfully. It was not until Zhang Han saw the little girl waving her hands, saying goodbye to him, and joining the procession of her classmates that he got back in the car smilingly. The motorcade left. At this time, in a Phantom at the back, Wang Kai's father wiped off the cold sweat from his forehead. Originally, he had been indifferent when teacher Lu had talked to him about Wang Kai yesterday. However, he was startled and became wet with cold sweat now. Though Zhang Han had made a presumptuous scene, he needed to pay a small price. Various reports showed up crazily all morning. Xian's mysterious boyfriend showed up again with numerous luxurious cars. Who on earth is he? The popular star, Xian, seemed to be married. Her daughter is studying in St. Kindergarten. As those reports spread overwhelmingly, Zhang Han was busy making spiritual pills on the mountain. Since he had many natural precious materials, he would keep refining the pills for about 2 days. Before noon, at about 10 o'clock, as Zhang Han was distracting his mind to control the cloud clusters above the soul sense sea, his cell phone rang all of a sudden. The moment he picked up the call, Xian's murderous voice came from the other side. "Zhang Han." "Ah?" Zhang Han was distracted and lost control of his mind. Bang! In an instant, thousands of layers of cloud clusters converged into a pitching black mass. 5 slim lightning bolts flashed across the cloud clusters, making Zhang Han feel somewhat dizzy. The next moment, he suppressed the cloud clusters in a hurry, pulled them apart, and asked, "What happened? Why did you start making a scene again? Look at the good deed you have done this morning. You should not do that. What you are doing now is teaching Meng Meng how to compare unrealistically." Well, consequently, Zhang Han stopped refining the pills hastily, went to the company obediently, and showed up in Xian's office. Before Zif walked out of Xian's office, She saw the cold look on Xian's face and heard her solemn words. She thought, whoops, the brother-in-law will be punished. However, more than half an hour later, Zhang Han walked out cheerfully. After Zif walked in, she found Xian's face blushing and the lip gloss on her mouth was gone. Zif asked surprisedly, "Yi, elder sister Yan, did you even make out in such a short period?" Xian replied somewhat confusedly, "What? No, we did not. How can we do that within such a short period? Whoa, apparently brother-in-law lasts long while making out, doesn't he?" Swish. Xian's beautiful face blushed. She said in anger, "Stop talking nonsense. Hee hee. Zif giggled and turned on the computer. As she browsed the news, she said, "Elder sister Yan, your pink news is in first place of the trending topics on Weibo as well as various browsers. It seems this pink news is pretty breaking." "What? Even the motorcade from this morning is among the lists of the trending hashtags. They are all guessing who on earth the brother-in-law is." "The effect is quite good, elder sister Yan. The number of the followers of your Weibo account has surpassed 40 million. At the same time, many insiders were also paying attention to the news related to Xian. The headquarters of the outstanding silver fruit video company in China was located in Linhai City, which was economically developed. At this moment, there were more than 20 people in the conference room, who were attending a meeting related to a project. The super variety show named Chinese New Voice, which we have been preparing, is almost ready. We confirmed who the 3 guests would be. However, the director suggested that one more supervisor should be added, since 2 of the guests will be assigned to the first group and the second and third groups will be assigned with 1 supervisor each. The discussion between the 2 supervisors will indeed be a selling point. As for the position of the last invited supervisor, 12 celebrities are interested in cooperating with us. As for whom we should pick, kindly speak your minds out, everybody. As the man spoke, photos of 12 currently popular celebrities showed up. A few of them were the first-tier stars and most of them were from the second tier. Upon seeing the scene, the staff in each department all spoke their minds and started discussing it. All of a sudden, the director of the program division, Cheng Zhu, spoke up as he said, "I think if we can invite someone to our program, she definitely will bring much attention for us." The person in charge was surprised and asked, "Who?" Cheng Zhu fixed his eyes, pointed at the table with his fingers, and uttered 2 words, "Xian." Chapter 505, Chinese New Voice. Xian. As Cheng Zhu uttered this name, all the people on the scene were at a loss. However, following that, they all became silent, thinking about the feasibility of this idea. Tenzong, the person in charge, squinted. Upon seeing the scene, Cheng Zhu, the general director, thought that he had offered a pretty good suggestion. At the same time, he also thought that Xian was an ideal option. According to his original plan, all of the 3 supervisors would be male, which was somewhat too masculine. He thought it would be better if he combined both male and female supervisors. Consequently, he started considering the options of female stars. As he pondered on it, he found that though many female stars seemed to be suitable for this position, they were not suitable at all. He had a brainstorm all of a sudden after he saw the piece of news related to Xian yesterday. He thought the kind of innocent and beautiful girl like Xian could not be more suitable for this position. It was not until all the people on the scene had been silent for 10 minutes that he spoke. It was not long ago that Xian made a comeback. I remember she issued an album at first and the sales of the album were poor. At that time, some even criticized her. However, according to the hearsay later on, the Royal Entertainment Company did not equip her with good resources and connections. After that, the god-level songwriter, Han Yang, prepared exactly 10 competitive songs. It seemed that she rose to fame overnight. However, she was popular once. She is amazingly good-looking. Besides, she soared up into the sky in one go with the competitive album that Han Yang had prepared for her. Currently, she is highly popular. After she became popular, there were many topics related to her. However, almost no pink news was related to her. The situation was almost the same as that of several years ago, however. After her song Loving You was released, there were more and more topics about her gradually. Many people suspected that she had gotten married. Now, someone photographed her in a car along with a young man and the look on her face was quite affectionate. Moreover, they had been spotted at the entrance to a kindergarten. Their panda car led a line of luxurious cars, went to the kindergarten again, and escorted a little girl to school today. Now so many people wondered if the reason why Xian had gone and lived in seclusion was that she had gotten pregnant. If we start counting the time when she had been pregnant from there, it happens that the child would be exactly 4 years old and suitable to go to kindergarten. Chengzi told everybody on the scene all that he knew. As he ended his speech, he pointed at the table with his fingers forcibly and said emphatically, "So, before the truth is revealed, there will be many topics related to Xian and her popularity will be pretty high. If she comes to our show, the traffic to our show will be qualitatively elevated. Consequently, this is my suggestion. I hope the person in charge can consider it." After his voice faded away, many others also offered their suggestions. I think Director Cheng's suggestion is a good one. Xian's appearance alone can attract many people. Moreover, her singing skills are quite good. Yes, I agree, Xian's singing skills are not problematic at all. Her popularity matters more, which can mainly bring in a large amount of traffic to our show. So far, Xian can beat anyone among the 12 celebrities. Upon hearing everybody's discussion, Tenzong, the main person in charge, nodded and waved his hands, making the whole scene quiet down gradually. Xian is indeed a good option. I hear that she just left the Royal Entertainment Company and started her own company. Currently, she needs to fight for her performance. Tenzong's eyes became bright gradually. He smiled and said, "We may invite her at a small cost. In that case, we can use the remaining budget to look for one more second-tier celebrity to preside over the show." The chief director, Cheng Zhu, asked hesitantly, "Then, should I ask someone to get in touch with Xian?" "No need. I have an old friend in Hong Kong who comes from the Chu family. The Chu family is quite well known in Hong Kong. With his help, the price for inviting Xian will probably be much lower." Tenzong shook his head smilingly, took out his cell phone directly, and looked through the contacts. Since the program division needed to get this thing done today, they had many tasks. Instead of avoiding the task, Tenzong sat in the seat of honor and dialed Chu Miniyuan's number. "Hello, Brother Chu, it's me, Tenzong." "Oh, yes, we have not contacted each other for a long time. How have you been recently?" It was not until they had been chatting for a minute that Tenzong started talking about his official business. "By the way, Brother Chu, the reason why I called you today is that I need you to do me a favor." Chu Miniyuan smiled and replied, "Junior Brother Tan, you can get to the point. I definitely will help you out if I can." Normally, people could say words like this quite politely. However, if one pondered on it carefully, though people could try their best to offer their help, mostly they could do nothing at all. Of course, Tenzong knew human nature quite well and did not intend to trouble him too much. All he wanted was to ask Chu Miniyuan to set him up with Xian, elevating his importance by using the identity of the members of the Chu family. Consequently, Tenzong spoke straightforwardly. "I wonder if you know Xian, Brother Chu." "Xian, of course, I do. Ha ha. Everybody in Hong Kong knows Xian now." "Junior Brother Tan, why did you ask about her?" Tenzong said, "Because I am now preparing a variety show called Chinese New Voice. We are one celebrity star short. Upon thinking about it, I think Xian is quite suitable." "Oh, she is suited for a variety show very much." Tenzong lowered his voice as he said, "Since Xian is in Hong Kong, I wonder if you can show up and set her up with our connections, Brother Chu. With your help, we definitely can get a good price, I think. Should we abide by the old rule?" "What did you say?" On usual days, when it came to a kind of thing like this, they preferred sitting down and having a good conversation. However, surprisingly, Xu Miniyuan got angry directly, even his voice was raised by 3 decibels. He said, Tenzong, do you f-king intend to trap me? Huh? Tenzong was at a loss instantly. He asked confusedly, Number, how can I intend to harm you? What happened, Brother Chu? At this moment, Xu Miniyuan got his senses back, took a deep breath, and said, Sorry, Junior Brother Tan, I got agitated. No, what on earth happened? Tenzong felt more confused. Well, Junior Brother Tan, the way I see it, you are too open-minded. To be honest, I am afraid that you can't invite Xian successfully since she is out of your league. Do you know what kind of connections she has? Even people from the 3 grand families of Hong Kong need to be polite to her upon meeting each other. The Chu family is not strong enough. Even though my family is strong, I can't help you with that. Honestly speaking, I am not entitled to meet her in person on usual days. How can I talk to her? As for this, the look on Tenzong's face froze. He was somewhat startled. It was not until this moment that he thought of one point. Since he intended to invite Xian to his variety show, the key lay in whether or not he could convince Xian. Since Xian just opened her company, she needed to fight for the performance results. However, the reality might not go as he had expected. He had made light of the reality and taken everything for granted. Tenzong could not help asking, in this case, the pink news related to Xian recently is true, right? Junior Brother Tan, be careful about what you say. We are not fit to comment on these kinds of things. Tenzong forced a smile and said, all right then. Knowing that his plan had failed, he was more certain that Xian would fit his variety show. As the saying goes, the best thing is something you can't get. It is the same when it comes to someone you can't win over. However, when Tenzong was about to give up, Xu Miniyuan said all of a sudden, hold on. Since you intend to invite Xian to a variety show, the project that the Purple Moon Entertainment Company took a few days ago will be over soon. Xian does have a gap in her schedule. Stay calm. I will consult my boss now and call you back later. As the saying goes, there is always a way out. Upon hearing Xu Miniyuan's words, Tenzong said continuously, all right, so sorry for troubling you, Brother Chu. I will wait for your update. He had done him a great favor by going to consult Patriarch Chu. After Tenzong hung up the call, he stared at all the people in the conference room, chuckled, and said, the update will arrive soon, let's discuss the other details. As a result, everybody started another discussion. During the process, the chief director, Cheng Zhu, got distracted sometimes. He had figured out the meaning of Xu Miniyuan's words a moment ago. All in all, Xian was socially influential. It was evident that she was very socially influential since she had gotten the attention of Patriarch Chu. However, never did it occur to him that she would be that socially influential. Ding! Before the discussion lasted 20 minutes, Tenzong's cell phone rang. After a few words, he hung up the phone. Tenzong said, give me the laptop, I need to video chat with Patriarch Chu and discuss something with him. Keep quiet. Speaking of the more than 20 persons attending the conference, they were all trained and cultivated by him, who turned out to be his trusted aides. As a result, Tenzong did not avoid them at all while getting things done. Soon, Cheng Zhu opened the laptop and placed it in front of Tenzong. President Tan did some operations and connected via video chat. Cheng Zhu and the other 2 executives could see the image of the video. A desk showed up in the image of the counterpart's video. A middle-aged man in glasses was sitting at the desk. This middle-aged man was well known. It was Patriarch Chu of Hong Kong. Undoubtedly, they all needed to look up to this tycoon. Even Tenzong was nervous. He swallowed, greeted him, and said, hello, Patriarch Chu. He saw that Xu Miniyuan was standing behind him and there were several middle-aged men beside Patriarch Chu. It was evident that they were the high-level executives of the Chu family. Even Brother Chu was not qualified to sit down. Patriarch Chu greeted him, smiled amiably, and said, hello. Patriarch Chu asked, I heard that Chinese New Voice is your variety show and you intend to ask Xian to be a supervisor, right? Yes, I do. So I called Brother Miniyun and asked him to help me with this. Patriarch Chu asked plainly. Oh, then, based on your budget, how much do you plan to pay to Miss Z? Gulp. He was under a lot of pressure while talking with the tycoon about monetary things. Though Tenzong felt too shy to speak, he replied, as for the pay, the budget is at about $25 million. Originally, he had planned to prepare $20 million at most and hoped that he could lower the pay to $15 million or below after negotiation. However, upon facing Patriarch Chu, he thought for a while and said a higher price, proving that he was more sincere. However, isn't it too little? The look on Patriarch Chu's face froze. He said, the pay is too low. Sometimes, sincerity is related to pay. If you do so, you would look insincere. It is Miss Z who you are inviting now. The pay is simply too low. However, there are only $40 million left for our program funding. Tenzong felt sweat all over his palms. Though he had said a higher pay, it turned out the pay was still too low. Oh, he did not understand the tycoon's world. $40 million. Patriarch Chu shook his head and said directly, do you need an investment? Ah? Tenzong was at a loss instantly. The atmosphere of the conference room was tense. Investment, is it coming? As for this, Tenzong was confused and did not know what he should say at all. Upon seeing the scene, Patriarch Chu was not interested in talking with him anymore. Feeling that he could not make the final decision, he said, forget it, I will talk with the president of the Silver Fruit Company. Tenzong nodded continuously and said, all right, all right. The video chat was cut off. All the attendees in the conference room were in an uproar, as was Tenzong, who wondered whether Patriarch Chu would make the investment or not. Soon, before 5 minutes had passed, Tenzong's cell rang. It was a call from the president himself. Tenzong picked up the call worriedly. Upon hearing the words, he was dumbfounded. After hearing the president's praise, he got excited. After he hung up the call, he glowed with health, leaned on the table, and said excitedly, we will be rich, we will be rich. Ha ha ha, the Chu family will invest $300 million. Xian's pay will be $200 million and the remaining $100 million will be our funding. Eventually, we can be extravagant. Chengzu, go to Hong Kong today and communicate with the Chu family about this. After you talk with the Purple Moon Company, you should do your best to get the deal done. According to the president, as long as you can get the deal done, it does not matter even if the pay will be doubled. Do you get it? Do you understand? After hearing his words, Chengzu replied somewhat confusedly, yes, I get it, but he did not understand what was going on at all. The kind of feeling and this kind of funding was the same as the situation where the air gun was equipped with a missile, which was f-king awesome. However, if he wanted to equip the air gun with a missile, he needed to get the contract done first. Consequently, they started the preparation in full swing. In the end, Tenzong decided that he would go to Hong Kong with Chengzu and others. The whole afternoon, Zhang Han had been practicing medicine under the Thunder Yang tree. It was not until 4 o'clock that he went to pick Meng Meng up at kindergarten. Fortunately, no issues took place this time. He had promised Xian at noon that he would never do anything like that again. He went into the kindergarten after standing in line. The little girl ran up to him as usual and said, Papa. Meng Meng's small face was filled with happiness. After she was held up by Zhang Han, she said happily, Papa, we had a football match today. Guess how many goals I got? Well, let me guess. 10. Hey, my goals can't be that many. It's wrong. Start over. Zhang Han asked hesitantly, then. Is it 2? As Meng Meng's big crystal clear eyes blinked, she said, number. I scored 3. After she finished her words, expectation filled her eyes. Of course, Zhang Han wouldn't let the little girl down. He looked surprised and laughed out loud as he said, "Wow, you are so amazing, Meng Meng, you are so amazing to score 3 times, I must reward you for that. In this case, how about eating ice cream in a moment?" Meng Meng said cheerfully, "Okay, okay, Papa is the best, ho ho ho, my teacher said I am amazing. I replied that Papa is the most amazing. Ha ha, my precious daughter is the best." Zhang Han held Meng Meng in his arms smilingly and walked out of the kindergarten. Click, click, click. Slight sounds of shutters were heard from across the street. Zhang Han heard the sounds, saw the people, and did not bother with them at all. He put Meng Meng down on the ground, held her tender hand, and walked back to the car. After they got back to the restaurant, Zhang Han called Xian again at 5:30 p.m. Originally, he had thought she would be home at 6 o'clock. However, Xian told him that she would arrive home after 7 and he should finish dinner with Meng Meng first. However, Zhang Han replied they would finish dinner together when she got home. Since Meng Meng had just finished the ice cream, she was not hungry at all. Consequently, the flavor of the dinner dishes Zhang Han had cooked was quite light. There was only one dish with meat. As for other dishes, they were all made up of vegetables. As they were eating dinner, Zif was somewhat distracted and spellbound. After enjoying a few mouthfuls of food, she said in bewilderment, "Sister Yan, the way you see it, however amazing the brother-in-law is, his influence only lies in Hong Kong. Why did the show from Linhai City seem to intend to give us money for free? It is somewhat over the top." "I don't know either." Xian shook her head slightly and said, "The pay is indeed high. I checked over the plan of the variety show, which is quite good." Zif said all of a sudden, "They arrived here together with the members of the Chu family. Could it be that the Chu family has increased the price?" Xian licked her lips and said, "It's hard to tell." At this moment, Zhang Han glimpsed at them, smiled, and said, "What are you talking about? Did you have a new project?" Xian pouted her red lips as she said, "There are always many new projects, honey, it's all your fault." "Well?" Meng Meng was at a loss, lifted her head, stared at Xian distractedly, and said, "You can't blame Papa for that. PFFT." Xian stared at Meng Meng, who favored her father, and burst into laughter. She pinched Meng Meng's tender cheek and said, "I blame your Papa for being too amazing. Papa is so amazing." After Meng Meng heard her mother's words, she was confused and thought, if Papa is so amazing, why did Mama blame him? I just can't figure it out. I will just eat dinner. The little girl mumbled and continued eating chicken wings. Xian looked at Zhang Han, licked her lips, and said smilingly, "Others all want to get higher pay and earn more. However, speaking of the contracts I have chosen currently, most of them have extremely high pay and a pretty light workload. Without your influence, that would not be the case." "Oh, ha ha." Zhang Han broke into laughter as he said, "It is easy for you to make the decision. You can do whatever you want. If you'd like to take the job, feel free to take it. If you don't like it, just say number. You can ask for any payment you want. All you need to do is to let them know." Zif said, "The way I see it, what brother-in-law said is right. There are 3 more supervisors in the show, right? Maybe you can ask for almost the same payment as them, Sister Yan." Xian nodded and said, "That suggestion works." After Zhang Han was full, he put down the chopsticks and said, "What is the name of the variety show?" Zif replied, "It is called Chinese New Voice, which will be promoted by the Silver Fruit Video Company. Up till now, the show has been quite innovative. The flow of the show and the 3 other supervisors they have chosen are quite good. They visited us at around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Except for the high pay they offered, there were no problems at all with the things they discussed with us. The show suits elder sister Yan very much. We are interested in cooperating with them." Zhang Han asked, "If you join the show, do you need to go to Linhai City?" "Yes," Xian nodded and said, "After all, we have a private jet. It is convenient for me to go back and forth." How will it be convenient for you? If you start getting busy, you won't have any time. Zhang Han shook his head, stared at Zif, and said, let's do it this way, ask for normal pay and see if they can move the location to New Moon Bay. Ah? Zif was at a loss and thought, could we play the game in this way? It seems that this way will also work. Zif got up directly and walked to the guest bedroom as she said, then, I will call and see how it goes. She walked into the guest bedroom, and it was not until about 10 minutes later that she walked out. It's done, Zif grinned and said. After they discussed it, they agreed. However, it is somewhat difficult for them to move the location to Hong Kong. It is because most of the participants come from Hua Nation and there will be many people at the open auditions. Some issues will be pretty difficult to be handled. They asked if it was okay to move the location to Shenzhen. If not, they will consult their upper-level supervisor. Xian nodded and replied, Shenzhen is also okay. It takes me less than 2 hours to get the driving on the highway. If I go there in a helicopter, it will take just over half an hour. Zhang Han also agreed and said, right. Consequently, they did not continue talking about this issue. Though they had discussed the pay previously, as they signed the contract the second day, the pay for Xian on the contract was $60 million. As for other celebrity supervisors, the highest pay they got was $30 million, which was half of what Xian got. After the contract signing ended, they ate lunch in the cafeteria of the company. Tenzong invited others to drink to celebrate the success smilingly, which startled Chu Meniyuan. He thought, drinking, are you kidding me? Tenzong said, we will replace the wine with tea. Chapter 506. The 100 Formation Image. The Purple Moon Entertainment Company and Silver Fruit Video Company formally signed the contract. Now, this issue had come to an end. The show was currently being prepared. There was 1 week to go before the show officially got started. Originally, the location had been prepared and was ready in the headquarters of Silver Fruit in Linhai City. However, since it had been changed to Shenzhen, the program division had been quite busy during this week. Fortunately, they had connections in Shenzhen and would directly do the setup in a vacant workshop, so 1 week was sufficient for them. They had contacted a 5-star hotel, which was about a mile away, and got the deal done. The price of the 5-star hotel was much more affordable. They had directly rented 3 floors in total, which would be used for the participants. After this deal was done, Xian became idle. Oh, no. To be more exact, she was much busier. When she escorted Meng to kindergarten with Zhang Han every morning, she would be spotted and photographed frequently. However, since she wore a hunting cap and pulled down the brim pretty low, it made people feel uncertain whether it was her or not. She intended to keep the popularity of this kind of guessing high and won a few days for the Silver Fruit Video Company, who was prepared to publicize her joining Chinese New Voice. Though the official promotion did not start yet, much news about the possibility that Xian might join Chinese New Voice and become its supervisor showed up among the overwhelming pink news of Xian, making people feel more concerned about this variety show. After escorting Meng to kindergarten, Xian and Zhang Han went back to the Golden Mortal School. The hostess presided over the castle by herself, who seemed to be a great general playing the tactics and strategies. She said, this one should be placed on the left side. It's crooked, move it inside a bit. Just put the small bedside cabinet here, I will place it on my own later. Compared with the area of a kind of European noble castle, the castle's area was not worth mentioning at all. Speaking of the castle's area, it was much smaller. However, it would be spacious if a family of 3 lived there. Since there were many rooms, they needed to buy more things. Consequently, Xian and Zuf were as busy as bees. It was because there were 3 more days to go before Xian moved in on Saturday. They were pressed for time. Except for the castle, the area where the members of the Wang family would live had been tidied up. It was pretty easy for the cleaning of the area to be done since, as the saying goes, there is strength in numbers. As for 100 Formation Image, Since the jade stone would not be ready the next day, they planned to get it done after Zhang Han was done with practicing medicine. Finally, at 3 p.m. on Thursday, as Zhang Han was practicing the last batch of medicine, Wang Zanping, Wang Zanhong, and Wang Ming waited off to the side. Dai and Little Hai were playing on the back mountain. As for Xian, Zif, and Wang Ya, they were still busy attending to their chores inside the castle. Boom! All of a sudden, a dull sound rang out from the furnace. Amazing! Wang Ming grinned, turning his head back. After he saw the scene in front of him, he said in astonishment, "It seems it is different from the previous situation." As they walked forward to the front of the furnace, Wang Zanping asked confusedly, "Han, what is going on?" Zhang Han stared at the furnace for a while, his mouth moved slightly. He uttered a sentence as he said, "The furnace exploded." Speaking of the medicine in this furnace, there were 2 kinds of third-stage spirit treasures and 8 kinds of second-stage spirit treasures. As the time to practice the medicine slowly came, boom! Another bang rang out from Zhang Han's soul sense, making him mentally and psychologically refreshed. The medicinal pellets were exploding in the furnace. As Zhang Han observed the soul sense, he suddenly found that it seemed the suppression he had exerted before was not sufficient anymore. In the middle of the thousands of cloud clusters, dozens of clouds had been somewhat stretched for some distance and seemed to be converged together. The lighting that occurred a moment ago also rang out from the dozens of cloud clusters. If the strength of the lighting was the same as that of the previous one lighting strike could not startle Zhang Han at all. However, the strength of the lighting was 3 times stronger than that of the previous one. Consequently, Zhang Han exerted more senses to pull the clouds in the middle apart. "I don't believe that I can't do anything to you." Zhang Han's pupils shone slightly. He observed the soul sense conscientiously and exerted all of his soul sense to stretch thousands of cloud clusters outward. All of a sudden, Zhang Han felt something was not right. As the distance went further, the strength that had held the cloud cluster became stronger. Meanwhile, Zhang Han could sense that his soul sense was increasing gradually. What is the name of this trick of practicing? Zhang Han fixed his eyes. As the group of members including Wang Ming looked on, Zhang Han sat cross-legged and closed his eyes slowly. He exerted all of his soul sense and stretched the cloud cluster outward continuously. As he reached his limit, he found out all of a sudden that the area of the cloud cluster was enlarged by double. Bang! His whole soul sense could not hold the cloud cluster anymore. The world of his soul sense changed, which expanded outward continuously. It seemed that he had been elevated to the state of the 10 inches Danshan. At the same time, Zhang Han's soul sense increased at a visible speed. It seemed that the cloud cluster was eager to converge together and grew bigger quietly. Within a short period of 10 seconds, each cloud cluster was smaller than the previous one by half. However, under this state, Zhang Han only hung on for 10 seconds. Hiss! Dizziness came over him. Zhang Han retrieved his soul sense. The cloud cluster converged together once again. There were some slits among each cloud. The whole cloud layer became quiet once again. Zhang Han's state a moment ago was quite good. Unfortunately, he had only hung on for 10 seconds. Moreover, if he continued exerting his soul sense would be damaged. Based on his observation, it would be quite good if he could exert the soul sense one time within 2 to 3 days. However, most importantly, there was quite a long time to go before he could break through to the innateness and the Thunder Yang would grow out. Zhang Han was somewhat concerned about not being able to suppress his soul sense if he continued practicing. Zhang Han was somewhat emotional. Previously, he had been anxious about how to strengthen his power. Now, he felt somewhat concerned that he would not be able to suppress his power since his strength had been elevated so much. It was Xian who had made all of these things happen to him. Without Xian, his current state would have been only the 6 inches Danshan or 7 inches Danshan. Probably, she brought fortune to me. Zhang Han smiled, opened his eyes, and looked in the direction of the castle. He explored the situation of the castle with his soul sense and found that Xian was ordering the staff to place the sofa in the movie hall. Wang Zanping and the other two stared at each other confusedly at Zhang Han's side. Even though they had been staring at him for a long time, they still did not understand what Zhang Han was doing now. Zhang Han diverted his eyes and shook his head slightly as he said, "It's nothing." The furnace exploded. Zhang Han's words made Wang Ming change the look on his face. He forced a smile and said, "Han, I would have forgotten it if you didn't bring it up. During the process of practicing medicine, the furnace will explode. However, I hear that it is quite normal that the furnace will explode 9 times out of 10 while the disciples of the Heavenly Elixir sect are practicing medicine. The probability of the furnace exploding could even be 99 out of 100. The success rate is extremely low." Zhang Han smiled gently and said, "The medicine prescription may be problematic, or I might not handle the fire of the furnace well. It might happen due to other reasons. All in all, fresh beginners all need to go through this process." Wang Zanping replied, "However, as for the several senior masters of the Heavenly Elixir sect, their success rate of practicing medicine is only 20 to 30%. The corners of Wang Zanping's mouth trembled slightly. Wang Zanping thought, "Not everyone is as f-king lucky as you. Though you had practiced with several furnaces of medicine, only one furnace exploded. They had been practicing for a few years." Zhang Han smiled and did not say anything at all. He stood up as he said, "Let's go. I will set up the 100 formation image for you." "All right, all right, all right." Wang Zanping and the two others were excited. They followed Zhang Han and walked to the back mountain. The area of Mount New Moon was much larger, however. The appearance of its surroundings was almost the same as before. They traversed a dense forest on the back mountain, which had been transformed into an over 5-meter high cliff. There was a pile of rubble down below the cliff. Zhang Han raised his hands. Boom, boom, boom. The rubble descended from the air continuously, forming a square city wall, whose height was almost at 3 meters. Zhang Han said, "Jade stones. Here they are." The bracelet around Wang Ming's wrist blinked and 2 boxes of jade stones showed up beneath Zhang Han's feet. Wang Ming said, 999 pieces. Zhang Han also divided all the special treasures, which he had gotten back. Wang Ming, Zhao Feng, Rong Jiaxin, and even Instructor Liu got 1. As one's strength achieved a certain state, the special treasures would not become precious and rare anymore. Zhang Han nodded and waved his right hand as he said, "Yes." Consequently, all the 999 pieces of jade stones floated in the air. As a result, as Zhang Han clenched his fist, all the jade stones shattered into pieces. 3 people, including Wang Ming, were at a loss and thought, how will the formation be set up since the jade stones were shattered into pieces? As they felt confused, streaks of light, which looked like powder, fell like raindrops. A definite circle formed inside the downside stone wall. Following that, various kinds of horizontal and vertical silken lines formed one after another, which were even denser than a spider web. Zhang Han's eyes became brighter gradually. In the end, a ray of shining light flashed, and the last jade stone power fell. The whole formation became quite bright. 3 seconds later, the lights all dissipated. The formation was done successfully. Huh? Wang Zanping stared at the formation image for a while. All of a sudden, the look on his face froze. He said, "Well, it seems that there are 3 formations inside. However, why does it seem to be whirling? Is it moving?" Wang Ming shook his head as he said, "Whoa, I feel somewhat dazzled after staring at it for a while. What is going on?" Wang Zanhong stared at the formation image for several seconds and could not help exclaiming as he said, "Amazing, so mystifyingly amazing." While talking, all of them stared at Zhang Han, waiting for him to enlighten them. Everybody sees the shape of the 100 formation image differently, consequently, the formation they see will also be different. Zhang Han smiled gently and said, If you can see over 100 formations in the 100 formation image, you will figure out its essence. After you have been studying it for some time, you can start studying the 1000 formation image. Wang Zhanhong stared at Wang Zhanping as he asked, "So, we see different images, right? What I saw a moment ago was something similar to the Qili maze formation." Wang Zhanping looked downward and said, "Now I see the Bing San maze formation again." Wang Zhanhong mumbled as he said, "Woo, I saw the San Yu maze formation and King Feng defense formation. This is so strange." Wang Zhanping's eyes were bright again, which were overflowing with excitement. "Well." Wang Ming squeezed his small face as he said, "I only see one basic formation and feel somewhat confused." Ha ha. Upon hearing his words, Zhang Han shook his head and said, "You will see the formations that you are experienced in at first. You can penetrate outward slowly based on your knowledge. One day, you will finish understanding the hundreds of deployments. However, you should spend no more than 7 hours per day on the 100 formation image. As the saying goes, going too far is as bad as not going far enough. You can study other formations of other sects the rest of the time." Wang Zhanping nodded continuously as he said, all right. Then little uncle, 2 masters, you can study the formation image first. I will go home first." Zhang Han nodded, turned around, and went back to the front mountain. He walked into the castle directly and went to the movie hall on the 3rd floor, where decorations had just been done. "Honey, are you done?" Xian saw Zhang Han walking over cheerfully, held his arms, and said, "What do you think of my decoration?" As they talked, they walked into the movie hall, whose area was quite large. There were 3 sets of sofas in the front and the back. There was one sofa set specifically for couples, and one medium-sized sofa where people could lay and sit on. The medium-sized sofa was suitable for a family with 3 members. There was a long sofa at the back, which was prepared for the guests. Zhang Han smiled and said, "It looks very good. I did not realize that you are so good at decorating." "Of course. Don't you know that girls usually like to decorate their house very much?" Xian said cheerfully, "Since our house is so spacious, it is super comfortable to decorate it. By the way, what should I do about my house in Union? Should I sell it since we all live here? It seems we have not gone back there for a long time, right?" As Zhang Han was about to say something, Xian shook her head continuously and said, No, we can't sell it." "Ah?" Zhang Han was at a loss slightly and stared at Xian peculiarly. He did not know what she was thinking about. However, what Xian said afterward made Zhang Han feel somewhat awkward. She licked her lips and said, "If you upset and bully me in the future, I will go back and live there. I will also take Meng there." Zhang Han adjusted the expression on his face and said, "Well, I won't do that. I think it's better if you sell it. I will inform Xiaofeng about this later." Xian pouted her mouth and said gently, "HMPH." She stared at Zhang Han as her big eyes blinked. She said softly, "What if you bully me in the future? Do you think I will do that?" Zhang Han grinned, stretched out his hands, and bared Xian's waist, making her cling to him completely. Xian's curvy figure touched Zhang Han's heartstring. He said somewhat ambiguously, "In some ways, I will. I even want to bully you right now, otherwise, Xian's shining and big eyes were fixed. After that, her beautiful face blushed. She saw from the corner of her eyes that a staff member was walking to the other side in a hurry while lowering his head. She twisted her body, broke free from Zhang Han's embrace, and said cutely, "You are so naughty. There are so many people here. Ha ha, isn't it quite normal?" As they were flirting with each other, Zif popped her head out from the side room all of a sudden and asked, "Elder sister Yan, come here to check whether I can do the decoration like this." After she saw Zhang Han, she grinned and said, "Brother-in-law, you are done with your chores, right? You can come to check it together." Xian responded as she walked over while holding hands with Zhang Han, "Here we come." The room that Zif was checking now was an instrument room. Whether it was the door or the wall, they were all equipped with better soundproof mechanisms. Various kinds of classic instruments were already placed inside. The instruments inside the room included a guitar of Eric Clapton, a classical guitar, electric guitar, violin, violoncello, accordion, synthesizer, and so on. The piano was lacking. If they moved the Steinway in the dining hall over here, the variety of the instruments in this room would become much more comprehensive. The instruments were placed quite neatly. Besides the instruments, there were 2 computers and some electronic devices. The furnishing and decoration of the room were quite delicate, including some refreshing green items to offset it. Zhang Han looked around, nodded smilingly, and said, "It's quite good." Xian said cheerfully, "If you are interested, we can write songs here in the future." Zhang Han was amazing, who knew many songs as a songwriter. Xian knew that Zhang Han could create songs based on his understanding of the piano and the instruments. However, his knowledge of the instruments would be poorer than her professional knowledge. Zhang Han replied with a chuckle, "All right. Then, let's look over the other rooms." Xian showed her achievements in recent days to Zhang Han cheerfully. The bedroom was decorated by Xian on her own. Zhang Han had checked the decoration before and found that it was very beautiful. Moreover, the main and spacious bedroom for the little princess, the guest room, the storage room, the dressing room, the bathroom, the lounge, the treasured liquor room, the study, the indoor swimming pool, and so on were all decorated well. The whole castle became less empty and looked like a home. Chapter 507, Record or Not? At 8 a.m. on Friday, Zhang Han and Xian took Meng to Saint Kindergarten. "Bye-bye, Papa. You promised me that we will play with Big Hi and Little Hi after school gets out at noon." Meng walked toward the class team and couldn't help looking back, then reminded Zhang Han after taking 2 steps. "Well, I will pick you up at noon," Zhang Han assured Meng, and the little lady chuckled and waved her hands at Zhang Han, then ran to the class team. Seeing Meng was happy, Zhang Han was in a quite smooth mood as well, and left the kindergarten with a smile on his face. After driving back to the restaurant, there was already a moving van in front of the restaurant, which was loaded with pianos, wine cabinets, and all kinds of things. The restaurant was not entirely removed. The kitchen counters and utensils, emerald decorative walls, TV, beds, and closets were not moved. It could be said that it was the case of checking in. Zhao Feng had released the news to transfer the restaurant 2 days in advance. Zhang Han didn't ask about the price, and Zhao Feng didn't really care. Relatively speaking, profits from transferring the restaurant were tiny. Xian's mansion in Union Garden was sold for 73 million yuan. Zhao Feng let people handle a series of procedures. As for the clothes and toys in the room, they were also brought to the castle. "We have a lot of memories here." Xian in the passenger seat gawked at the restaurant. How about buying it?" Zhang Han became dazed for a moment, then asked with a smile. "No." Xian turned around, looking at Zhang Han with big shiny eyes, pursed her lips, and smiled leisurely. "We will have more memories in the future." "Ha ha, yes," Zhang Han replied. "So, let's go decorate our new home," Xian said with a smile. "Okay." Zhang Han started his car and headed for Mount New Moon. When they arrived, they made the staffer put the things they brought in their respective places, and everything was settled. Zhang Han and Xian returned to the master bedroom on the 3rd floor, with a large bed in it. Xian, like a child, hurried a few steps, jumped up, threw off her slippers, and rolled up on the bed. "Ha!" Zhang Han grinned, and was ready to rush up. There was a bright flash of light in Xian's eyes, as she said, "Go out first, wait for me to let you in." "I don't want to go out." Follow my words. Go quickly." Xian urged him. "Fine." Zhang Han walked out with a smile and closed the door. At the same time, a yellow McLaren was driving toward Mount New Moon. "Oh, thanks, Master B, for your 10 super rockets. Thank you, Abby, for the 5 planes. Gifts are coming so fast, please don't mind if sometimes I haven't noticed it. Has Master B talked? I am going to my boss's house. No, it's a manor, a villa, I can't remember, but it seems to have a name. I'm here for the first time, and I will show you guys later. What? You ask who my boss is? It will scare you if I say his name. Haha, so I can't say it. Meng Meng also can't film anymore. My dad is now working for the boss as the president of a company. Sun Donging drove forward along the highway slowly, because there were no cars on the road. He interacted with the fans at the same time. After this period of development, Sun Donging had become the #1 outdoor player on the live broadcast platform, with live broadcast gimmicks such as Fun Life, Daily Life of the Silver Spoon Generation, and Beauty. Last week, he signed with the live broadcast platform at a high salary of 30 million yuan a year. In general, people liked him, and the market price was 20 million yuan. Although the live broadcast was hot, it was classless as it emerged not long before. However, Sun Donging himself was somewhat rich, and the senior managers of the live broadcast platform were not sure that 20 million yuan was enough to keep him. Besides, the senior managers were very optimistic about his traffic, so they gave him an additional 10 million yuan, which made Sun Donging extremely happy. 20 million yuan was given to his family, and the rest was kept for his own use. Changes took place from his hair to feet, even his underwear. His hair was much longer, in a slick-back style, which he had to take good care of every day. His hair was no longer yellow, but in natural black, making him like a young, handsome male. A handsome appearance, cheerful style, and outgoing temperament are what made him an online celebrity. Thank you. 20 super rockets from Master B, thanks a lot. Master B is really wealthy. Sun Donging gave a thumbs up to the screen, and his brows deliberately bunched together, making his nose taller and his eyes deeper. This made some young Fang Earls type the word handsome on the screen. I'm here. Wow, this gate is incredibly luxurious, isn't it? It's so cool. Sun Donging looked at the front and suddenly shouted, then slowly parked the car a few meters away from the front side of the main gate. He opened the car window and stretched out his head, pointing his cell phone at the door. Look, Cold Mortal School, what a characteristics name, how about it? Cool, right? Bullet screen, 6,666,666. Have you seen it? The mansion covers the entire mountain, it's so big, let's go in and see. After speaking, Sun Donging drove the car over, and the window was not closed. Sun Donging, are you broadcasting? 2 members of the security group in charge of the gate greeted him casually when Sun Donging passed by. Brother Man, Brother Hua, why are you here? Sun Donging slowed down and greeted them. We are here to guard the gate. As soon as we finish our task, we come here to breathe the fresh air. Brother Hua laughed. Brother Feng is in the main residence, the upper castle. Okay, got it. Sun Donging responded with a smile and drove the car inside. After driving for a short distance, he thought about for a while and said, I'll park my car on the side of the road. Let me show you the surroundings first, but I have to go offline when I reach the main residence. So Sun Donging parked the car aside, got out, and aimed the camera at the front. Look, it's big here, many individual villas. Do you guys know the house prices here in New Moon Bay? Such a luxurious mansion in the middle of the mountain is extremely expensive, let alone covering such a large area. Damn it, look at the big castle in front, how beautiful it is. Sun Donging moved the camera around and finally settled on the castle. Looking from afar, the castle in front was the same as that in a fairy tale, making both one's mind and eyes pleased. At this time, bullet screens filled the screen. How much does this cost? It's scary. How wealthy Dong Huang's boss is. Such a large area, so many mansions, hundreds of millions of yuan. Hundreds of millions of yuan? I'm afraid you're kidding. A conservative estimate is that it's worth more than 10 billion yuan. Sun Donging saw that the number of people in the live broadcast room had exceeded 2 million, and shook his head with a smile. There were too many people and so many gifts, so sometimes he couldn't count them. How much is this worth? It's hard to measure. Let me show you the castle. Sun Donging walked up slowly and saw many people passing by. Among them were some from the security group and others from the Wang family who Sun Donging didn't know. To the 50 people from the security group, Zhang Han gave each of them a villa, which made them very happy. However, they still enjoyed living together, so 5 or 6 people lived in a 2-story villa. At the same time, every member was given a Mercedes S600, which were bought last time. Zhao Feng bought some more because of insufficiency. These behaviors could prove wealth and generosity. In addition, everyone was given a bank card with 1 million yuan on it. All the money earned from receiving security tasks was originally owned by them, but these guys were really embarrassed to take it. After discussions, they took 30% and left the company 70%. But that 30% was also a large amount. After seeing the treatment of the security group, it would have been unreal if those more than 60 people in the Wolf Head detachment were not jealous. They were even more envious of the relationship between the security group and Zhang Han. To them, wasn't this the prototype of a sect? Many had even suggested that they be included in the security group. Instructor Liu also struggled for a while and wanted to join in, but they were the Wolf Head detachment. If he was to quit, he couldn't account for it to his elder uncle. But no matter how tangled Instructor Liu was, Sun Donging strolled for more than 10 minutes before he got to the front of the castle. Looking at the small square, Sun Donging grinned. Pointing the camera to the front, he was shocked when he saw the panda car. He hurried to retract the lens. Recent news about his boss and his wife was spreading all around, and their popularity was spreading across the internet, occupying the forefront of various most searched hashtags. If something was accidentally leaked, he knew that his dad would scold him. Okay, enough. I have to go offline. See you guys in the afternoon. Bye-bye. Sun Donging said farewell a few times, and then went offline like lightning. Putting the device back in his bag, he walked quickly. Brother Feng, why are you sitting at the door? I'm taking a break here, Zhao Feng said, putting down his cell phone. Where are the boss and madam? Are they here? Sun Donging asked. They're tidying up the house. You can sit here and wait for a while, or you can just walk around, Zhao Feng said. Just now, he pushed the door open and found that it was not moving at all. After groaning for a second, he understood what was going on. After thinking about it, he sat down here, and the goods would be delivered later, so he made preparations to arrange it. Then I'll sit here and wait. Sun Donging smiled and sat on the steps and talked to Zhao Feng. Back to about a dozen minutes ago. In front of the bedroom door on the 3rd floor of the castle, Zhang Han waited with anticipation. He did not use his soul sense because it would be a lot less fun. He just waited to see later what Xian was preparing. Ding! A message from WeChat arrived. Zhang Han took his phone out and looked at it. It was a voice message from Xian, with a charming voice. Well, you can come in. Whoosh. Zhang Han quickly opened the door, closed it, then looked inward. The pale pink lace around the big bed had been opened, and Xian was hiding in it, and he could dimly see that she was wearing a sexy nurse's uniform. Gulp. A clear and audible swallowing sound came from Zhang Han. Immediately, Zhang Han moved his body and appeared in front of the window like lightning, took off his jacket and tossed it, and flung his flip-flops away. The two kissed. Gradually, Xian pressed against Zhang Han and undressed him. Zhang Han stumbled slightly. Was there something she needed my help with? After a moment's thought, he seemed to have guessed something, and a smile rose deep in his eyes. But he pretended not to be aware of it and lay there at the mercy of Xian. Finally, Zhang Han's shirt was completely off. Xian lay on Zhang Han, pecked his lips, and said, "Come with me to record the program, will you? Recording a show, it is not that great." Zhang Han shook his head. Xian kissed Zhang Han after hearing his words, intense and hot. After 2 minutes, their lips separated. Xian's voice was even more charming. Record or not? No. HMPH. Xian snorted softly, her lips sliding across Zhang Han's upper body. Record or not? Nope. Xian mustered up her cheeks, and removed Zhang Han's last piece of clothes. Xian kissed Zhang Han on his lips, and then kissed all the way down. Ah! Zhang Han squinted his eyes. About a dozen seconds later, Xian's vague voice came from down below. Record or not? Nope. As a result, Xian spared no effort. Finally, at the last minute, Xian looked up and asked, record or not? Okay. Zhang Han compromised again. Xian bowed her head with satisfaction. Finally, after a few minutes, Zhang Han cried out in a muffled voice. Xian put her hand over her mouth, got up, and ran to the bathroom. She came back and leaned against Zhang Han's arms after brushing her teeth. HMPH, you're so lucky. Xian hummed softly. Ha ha. Zhang Han smiled, while his hands were touching Xian. But because Xian was on her period, he also controlled himself to a certain extent. Then shall I use the name Han Yang to record the program with you? CP Instructor Group? Zhang Han asked. Instructor? No. Xian raised her head and said with excitement, you are a student. It is fun to go through the pre-selection process and pass all the way. If you make me unhappy, I can still eliminate you. Student, pre-selection process. Zhang Han was stunned, and then couldn't help laughing. If you think it's funny, then I will be the student. I'll record a short video of a song for you in a moment, and tomorrow is the deadline. First of all, you have to screen the song before you can participate in the program selections process, Xian said. Well then, is Chinese New Voice a program about new songs? Zhang Han asked casually. We don't need new songs in every link. New songs are not easy to release, so you can adapt other songs. Anyway, you don't lack songs, Xian said lazily. There are not many that I can remember, but it's enough. Zhang Han nodded. In fact, he was not interested in going on the show, but Xian was the source of his interest. She wanted to play, then he would accompany her. It's enough. Anyway, we can choose songs that pop stars are not involved in. Well, by the way, if I participate in the show, I am only available from 9 AM to 3 PM. I still have to send and pick up Meng at school, Zhang Han said. I know, I'll arrange for you to be done quickly. I'll be there, so what are you afraid of? I will cover everything for you. Xian said with a smile. These words made Zhang Han unable to stop laughing. After lying down for more than 20 minutes, Zhang Han patted Xian on her waist. Let's get up. Xiaofeng and Dongying have been waiting downstairs for a long time, and those things from Union Garden have also been delivered. Oh. Xian sat up suddenly. Then the door has been closed for so long? Do they all know what we are doing? Chapter 508, Audition Video. So what if they know? We are young and hot-blooded, it's normal. Zhang Han casually answered with a smile. Quickly get up. Quickly get up. Xian urged him. They then started to get dressed. The round princess bed was not small, it was 3 meters wide. Luckily, the bedroom was big. There was even a 75-inch television hanging on the wall in front of the bed. There was a small bed beside the big bed that was guarded by a fence all around. It was for Meng. Meng was still young, so she could not sleep in a bedroom on her own yet. The small bed was also set up in detail by Xian. There were many dolls all around. After changing, Xian placed the playful outfit into the center compartment of the wardrobe in front. Let's go down first. It's already 10 o'clock. We still have to record your video. Xian wrapped her arm around Zhang Han's and left the bedroom. Okay. Zhang Han nodded. Naturally, at this point in time, he would listen to whatever she said. Otherwise, it would be, you took advantage of me and now you don't want to admit it? The couple walked down the wide staircase and arrived at the living room on the first floor. No matter how many things were placed there, the living room was still a little spacious. After all, the area was so big. After opening the door, Zhao Feng and Sun Donging both stood up. Master, Mom, Boss, Madam. They both greeted them. Well, come on in and take a seat. Why are you guys sitting at the door? Xian said with a smile. This caused Zhao Feng's gaze to pause. Please, I wanted to go in, but the door wouldn't budge. Hence, the group entered the living room. Looking at the situation inside, Sun Donging exclaimed in amazement. What the? This is too beautiful. It feels like a castle in those stories. There were some sofas on both sides of the living room. After walking past them, Xian said, I'll go get some cold drinks. As she spoke, she walked toward the kitchen at the side and took out 3 bottles of juice from the fridge. After coming out, she handed Sun Donging and Zhao Feng one each while she and Zhang Han shared one. Madam, there was news on the internet saying that you're taking part in Chinese New Voice, is that legit? Sun Donging asked cautiously after taking a sip. It's true, Xian nodded slightly and answered. Feeling strange, she asked, didn't Uncle Sun tell you? Alas, my dad wouldn't tell me. He made me go ask for myself as he was worried that I would let the cat out of the bag immediately, Sun Donging said helplessly. That one sentence caused the other 3 to chuckle. Zhao Feng nodded and said, Uncle Sun is indeed very serious in the things he does. Yup. Zhang Han also nodded. Xian glanced at Sun Donging and asked, Are you here just to ask about this? Yay. Oh no. Sun Donging looked excited and he rubbed his hands together as he said, Madam, I also signed up for the show. I've already passed the preliminary eliminations. They told me that there will be a second round on the 15th in Shenzhen. You signed up too? Xian was slightly shocked. Did he enter through connections? For a well-known competition-based variety program like this, the relationships inside were very complicated. The water was much deeper than what many would think, but even if you were to rely on connections, you would not be able to make it without having skill. After all, the audience could see for themselves. If one was to participate so pointlessly, they would be criticized. Sun Donging seemed to know what she was thinking. He chuckled. I'm not trying to hook up with connections, I'm just hoping that Madam can look out for me when needed. I'm going as an anchor, so if I screw up, I will be teased by many singers. Once that gets broadcast, it'll be too embarrassing. Since I'm a die-hard fan of you, Madam, you must help me when people cross the line and tease me. PFFT. Xian could not help bursting out laughing. She said, You'll definitely feel more pressured going on the show as an anchor, but you shouldn't be asking me for help. Ah? Sun Donging froze for a second and looked at her in confusion. At this moment, Xian kept on blinking her big shining eyes. Her gaze was charming and alluring. She glanced at Zhang Han and said with a smile, You should look for him. He's also going on the show. PFFT. Sun Donging almost spilled the juice in his mouth. He stared wide-eyed at Zhang Han and asked, Boss, you're also going? He almost blurted out, Boss, can you sing? However, recalling how he had single-handedly created a national sensation when he pursued Madam, he realized that the song that Boss sang was quite nice. Master, you're going too? Then that show is going to be so lively. If the producers know that you're going, they won't be able to stop smiling. Zhao Feng laughed and applauded. The word Han Yang was still able to bring in some money, although it was not as well known as during the big war on Weibo, it was still influential. Yup. He's going to be a student. We'll be shooting the video for the audition later, Xian said with great enthusiasm. Although she had just paid the price that caused her lips to become numb, through the deep interactions time and again, some things had come to be. Xian also knew that he would have agreed without her doing anything extra, but when she thought about his expression when he pretended to not agree to it, she came up with something fun. Boss sings well. If he goes on the show, he will definitely give the professional singers a big shock. Sun Donging smiled and said, That's where you're wrong. He's bound to shock everyone." Xian exclaimed while holding Zhang Han's hands. "Everyone?" Sun Donging froze. "Don't you know? Boss has another name on the internet, it's Han Yang." Zhao Feng smiled and said, "If the producers find out about this identity, just think about it." "What?" Sun Donging's eyes popped wide open. He stared at Zhang Han, dumbfounded. 3 seconds later, he then proclaimed, "Oh my, boss, you have all my respect. That's why if you want to perform better on the show, you should be pleasing the head of the family," said Xian. Yes, boss, please accept me as your disciple." Sun Donging made the gesture seriously. "This still depends on your own effort. My help will be limited, if you sing off-key." Zhang Han chuckled. "It always boils down to what you have to offer. Even if Zhang Han gave him a song, if he could not even master the tune, then it would be useless. Boss, don't worry, I'm okay at singing. In the past, I always dreamt of becoming a singer. I do have some knowledge about a few techniques." Sun Donging patted his chest and said, "There are still a few more days, right? You can make use of the time to visit the company and find out some simple professional knowledge from the teachers. If the other teachers on the show ask you a question and you can't answer, marks will be deducted." Xian nodded and said, "Yes, I'm planning to go tomorrow." Sun Donging continued, "Here's what I also thought of. A while back, there was a singer named Diabo. He sang a trending song and he gained popularity. He went on a variety show and the teacher asked them what note he was singing. He was unable to answer and got disqualified. I have to make preparations during this period of time. I can't get disqualified just like that. If I get past the first few rounds, I'll be able to face my family back home. Haha, I'll have a few million fans too." At this moment, Sun Donging was relieved. His boss was a genius songwriter. He was very talented. With his boss and madam backing him, he could finally let go of his worries. After chatting for a bit, Zhang Han glanced at the time. It was already 10:30. Hence, he looked at Xian and said, "Let's go record the video first. We have to pick up Meng later. Then let's go to the studio first." Xian nodded. She then turned to the other two. "You guys want to come with?" Sure. Is it convenient? Otherwise, I'm not going." Sun Donging scratched his head and said, "There's nothing inconvenient about it." Xian shook her head slightly. She and Zhang Han both stood up and they led the other two up the stairs. They arrived at the studio on the 3rd floor. "So many instruments, so cool," Sun Donging said enviously after seeing the place. He planned to also make a studio in his small apartment. Who cared if he knew how to play them? At least they would look classy. Xian glanced at all the instruments before looking at Zhang Han. She asked, "What song do you want to sing?" "Just a small section is enough. You know how to play the piano too, so all of these are an added bonus." Zhang Han set into thinking. "I'll sing the one that you wrote," he said with a smile. "Love You?" "Sure. Then do you want to create an effect with the setup? I feel that you'll definitely pass even if you sing just like that. Use the microphone to try it out. The effects will be better," Xian said after giving it some thought. "Then I'll just sing like that." Zhang Han sat down in front of the piano and opened it. Wait, I'm trying to look for a nice angle." Xian took out her phone and started to find a nice angle. Eventually, she sat diagonally opposite him. "Okay, I'll count 3, 2, 1 and then you'll start. 3, 2, 1. At this moment, Zhao Feng and Sun Donging quieted down. Without being told, they both held their breath. After Xian's countdown, Zhang Han started playing the piano and he also began to sing. Just like this, "Love you, love you, love you, all the time, I want to be with you, I love the scent of your coat, and your embrace. If we tie the buttons of our shirts together, we won't be separated. Beautiful love, I just love to be close to you, just like." Zhang Han's voice was a little masculine, although it did not sound like Xian's singing voice. it still had a rich unique flavor, especially when he did a few vibratos in the right places. Just like that, he sang a section of the song, which lasted about 50 seconds, and stopped singing. Finished. Xian ended the recording and smiled. You sang so well, my husband is so talented. It's good, it's good. Sun Donging applauded. Zhao Feng also applauded with a smile. They seemed like they were just complimenting for the sakes of doing so, but his song did touch them. I just feel that the piano was too loud, and it sounded a little messy. Why not try using the guitar? Xian said. I don't know how to play the guitar. Zhang Han shook his head slightly and said. I do. I'll play it for you and Xiaofeng can do the recording, Xian said with a bright smile. You're going in the video as well? Zhang Han asked. No, I'll just be off to the side. No, even if you record my back view no one can tell that it's me, and then I'll help you to do the sound effects. I need to curl my hair, wait for me for a while. After which, she ran out in a hurry. Zhang Han stretched out his hand toward her back view. He felt a little helpless. He glanced at the time and reminded her again. How about you don't curl your hair, it's going to hurt your hair, besides, we are running tight on time. It'll be quick. Xian's voice came from the corridor. Quick. Zhang Han was very skeptical. When a woman begins to doll herself up, her speed. Chapter 509. Prepared present for younger sister. Xian also knew that they were short on time. After curling the back of her hair, she hurried back to the studio. All right, let's do it. Hence, she turned on the computer again and tested out the setup. She held onto the guitar and sat diagonally opposite Zhang Han, with her long hair flung behind her shoulders. Her face could not be seen. Her wavy curls were very eye-catching indeed. Zhang Han held onto the microphone. He was ready. 3, 2, 1, start. Zhao Feng whispered before he began to record the video. As his voice faded away, Xian began to play the guitar. She played softly and at a slightly lower pitch so that it could better showcase Zhang Han's voice. Hence, Zhang Han sang again. Finished. Xian placed the guitar aside, put on the headset, and listened to the recording. This is it, we only need to add some background music. Xian worked on the computer for a while. A few minutes later, she sent the finished project to Chinese New Voice's email address. It was now 11:30. Zhang Han and Xian left the house to go pick up Meng. Sun Donging headed to the company while Zhao Feng stayed on the mountain to prepare the ingredients. For lunch, Zhang Han planned to make a fish hot pot, braised pig knuckles, Hungarian sheep pig sausages, cold ladyfinger salad, and cucumber salad. On the way to St. Kindergarten, Xian was in a very good mood. She sat in the back and gently hummed a tune as she scrolled on her phone. Oh right, it's Meng's birthday soon. Xian suddenly thought of it and looked up to say, yay, it's on the 3rd of December, we still have more than half a month. Zhang Han answered with a smile. You remember it so clearly, then is there anything we have to prepare? Xian asked. Of course we have to prepare something. This is the first time I'm celebrating Meng's birthday. From now on, I will give her an unforgettable surprise every year. A gentle smile hung on the corners of his mouth. After which, he quieted down and looked at Xian. He quickly tried to salvage it. Of course, for you too, you'll have surprises on your birthdays. HMPH, that's more like it. Xian scoffed lightly, after which, she smiled and said, then what gifts should we prepare? First, we need a beautiful and delicious cake. We'll then set off some fireworks. On the next day, we'll bring Meng up north to play in the snow. She hasn't seen snow before. We'll spend a few days there and that's it, Zhang Han said after giving it some thought. Go up north to play in the snow? Xian suddenly paused, but she still has to go to school. She'll just take leave, Zhang Han said casually. I think it's better if she doesn't. Although she's still in kindergarten, she still learns new things every day. Besides, by the 3rd of December, our show will have yet to end. What I propose is to spend her birthday at home, and then when there's a 1-week school break during Christmas, we'll go up north then, okay? Xian said. That's fine too. Zhang Han made a low groan and nodded eventually. He chuckled and said, in the future, I'll have to go catch a snowman for Meng Meng to play with. Snowman, catch? Xian froze for a split second. She asked in confusion, how do you catch a snowman? Huh? Is it really a real snowman, alive? They really exist? She suddenly realized that Zhang Han should be referring to those mystical living snowmen. Of course, snowmen are also called the spirit of the snow. They are an interesting species, Zhang Han replied. Then what do they look like? Xian asked curiously. Well, they have no fixed form, they're spiritual beings. However, they're usually in the form of a giant snowman or a small fat one. They can control it. Oh. While talking, they arrived at the front of the kindergarten. After a few minutes, school was out. Zhang Han lined up to enter the school. Papa. Meng Meng saw Zhang Han and ran toward him excitedly. Like usual, she stretched out her arms. Zhang Han smiled and wrapped his arms around her. He gave her a peck on her cheek. Papa, are we moving to Xanadu today? Meng Meng pouted her mouth and asked. Yes, we're going there directly afterward. We're not going back to the restaurant anymore. Zhang Han smiled gently and replied. Yay, I can now play with Big Hi Hi and Little Hi Hi every day. Meng Meng raised her arms happily. Papa, let's go now. Okay. Zhang Han smiled and put the little girl on the ground. He stretched out his finger. Hence, Meng Meng wrapped around his finger with her small hand. She hopped out of the school while carrying her big backpack. Mama. After getting in the car, Meng Meng squeezed into Xian's embrace and snuggled in her arms. Zhang Han started the car and drove toward New Moon Bay. Mama, someone else in our class cried again. It was Xuanhuan and Bai. They snatched a toy and just started crying. Meng Meng was still blabbering away with what happened in school. She also told them what she learned, which was mostly Cantonese. Meng Meng knew very little Cantonese, but she was fluent in English and Mandarin. Through learning new things every day, the little girl now knew more things. Oh no, Papa, why is it different? When the car approached the gate of Mount New Moon, Meng Meng was surprised by its appearance. Because this is our home, Papa built this house, we can only stay here if we have a house. Zhang Han chuckled. Wow! What a giant door, there are two big brothers standing there, aren't they tired? Meng Meng continuously blinked her clear big eyes and looked around curiously. They will usually be working and will stand there when they are resting, Zhang Han answered. It's so beautiful. Ah, Papa, there's a castle on top. Is that Princess Elsa's castle? Meng Meng asked when she saw the castle on the mountain. That's not Princess Elsa's castle. Zhang Han shook his head and a smile formed at the corner of his lips. It's Princess Meng Meng's castle. Princess Meng Meng, I am Meng Meng, it's my castle, yay, yay, it's my castle, yay. Meng Meng was filled with ecstasy immediately. The car drove into the courtyard in front of the castle. After it pulled to a stop, the family of three entered the castle. Meng Meng ran around happily. Finally, she looked around her massive bedroom on the 3rd floor and discovered many interesting toys. But when she heard that she was going to live in this room alone, she lost interest instantly. Upon entering Zhang Han and Xian's bedroom, she saw the small bed beside the big bed, and she started to giggle. After walking around the castle with Meng Meng for half an hour, Zhang Han then prepared to go make dinner. There were a kitchen and dining room on every floor. Zhao Feng brought the ingredients to the kitchen on the 3rd floor. When Zhang Han was about to go prepare, Meng Meng quickly asked, Papa, can Big Hi Hi and Little Hi Hi come here to play? If you wish, Zhang Han answered with a smile. I'll go call them. While saying so, Meng Meng ran down the stairs. No need to go down, just call them from the balcony. Xian pursed her lips and smiled. She pulled along Meng Meng's small hand and walked to the living room. She opened the glass door and stood on the open-air balcony that faced the back of the mountain. The balcony was very spacious, and the guardrail was 1.3 meters high. Meng Meng was not even as tall as the guardrail yet. Luckily, the guardrail was spaced. Big hi, little hi, I'm here, quickly come. Meng Meng shouted. Oh oh, oh oh oh. Ooh ooh ooh. Two voices rang from within the dense forest. Soon, Dai and Little Hai were seen running over. Come in quickly. Meng Meng waved her little hand from the third floor. Dai scratched its head, seeing Little Hai being the forerunner going toward the main door. It also galloped on its four limbs and followed along. They met up with Meng Meng and played with her for a while. Because Dai had a huge physique, it was unable to stretch out fully, so it was not as comfortable as it was outdoors. Hence, during lunch, the two high powers left the castle and ran toward the back of the mountain. The roasted goose should be chilled by now, Dai thought while running. For Meng Meng, it was her first time being in a castle. Everything was interesting and she was very happy. After lunch, she watched a movie in the movie hall and then went to the mountains to play with them. Her crisp laughter was heard everywhere. Seeing Meng Meng so happy, Zhang Han's heart was very satisfied. Ever since Meng Meng came into his life, his values and priorities had gradually changed. These few days, the Wang family also started to get busy. Those who liked to do business all invested in the Meng Meng group. They did not try to get in through connections, but most of them took the initiative to start working from the bottom. The passport problem was also easily taken care of thanks to Zhang Han's connections. There were documents from elementary, middle, and high school. Basically it did not affect Meng Meng's lessons, but regarding Cantonese, they were still in the midst of mastering it. Meanwhile, Wang Zanping, Wang Zanhong, Wang Ming, and 7 or 8 other disciples whose job was to research the formations went to the forest every day to research the 100 formation image. At this point in time, Mount New Moon, or even the Cold Immortal School, were already hotspots. They were bustling with liveliness. Time passed by quickly. Another week had passed. These few days, after picking up Meng Meng from school, Zhang Han and Xian would go to the company's studio to jam. And today, what they were working on was finally complete. At 3 p.m., Zhang Han and Xian went to the DJ night show. There were very few lights and the place was dim. Zhao Feng, elder brother Long, and a few other people were all here. The lighting engineer and some staff were standing at the side of the stage. Lilai is suntanning at the beach with Liang Hao and Liang Menkai. Zhao Feng walked up to Zhang Han and said, "Then I'll call her." Xian took out her phone and dialed. "Hey, Lilai, I have something to talk to you about. I'm at the company's bar, come on over." Hence, 20 minutes later, Zhang Li entered the club with the others behind her. She had her hair tied into pigtails and she was wearing a scarf and a sports outfit. As she entered, she saw Zhang Han and Xian at the console and she asked in shock, "Bro, sister-in-law, what are you guys doing here? Are boss and lady boss going to perform?" Liang Menkai asked. "We are." Xian pursed her lips and glanced at Zhang Han. "Ahem." Zhang Han picked up the microphone, smiled and said, "Up next, I want to give my biological younger sister a present. Xian and I prepared this present ourselves. Lilai, it's something that you'll like." "All right, lighting engineer, please get ready." Zhang Han spoke casually. He held up his palm, indicating the start of the performance. The lights in the club started to flash. At the same time, a melodious rhythm started. It was an EDM song, a classic that came out at the end of this century, Fade. The moment the rhythm started, Zhang Li's expression froze. Chapter 510, The First Little Red Flower. Zhang Li was very sensitive to EDM sounds. She was already in love with the opening melodious rhythm. She never expected EDM to have such an attractive melody. The music was appropriately fast and slow at different times. Be it the bass in the small details or the ethereal electric sound, Everything was so fascinating. She was not the only one feeling like that. Even those who did not know how to appreciate EDM fully, like Liang Mengkai, Liang Hao, Zhao Feng, and those who listened to DJ all day, including Brother Long and Day, were all stunned. Even their bodies froze. Explosive music could make one's body groove along, but once a sentimental piece starts to play, the listener would forget everything and focus on the ear's enjoyment. In the last century, Fade was a big hit verified by countless markets across the world. It blew up on the internet in a short amount of time. Some of Alan Walker's classics also blew up. Fade became his masterpiece. Not long after, he invited Norwegian singer Wrestling to create the award-winning Faded on the spot. It could be said that he was then crowned as the most talented composer on the EDM market. Just 2 years after his debut, he clinched 17th place among the top 100 DJs in the world. However, his fans were among the best. A few days ago, Zhang Han had already thought about this. He even got Zhao Feng to send someone to search, but it ended up that there was no such person. After thinking about it, he felt that he could give Zhang Li a present with a few of the EDMs that he was familiar with. Hence, he and Xian used 1 week to come up with this. After all, the porter's job was quite easy. Xian did not know much about the DJ console, so she especially learned how to control the song Fade from a teacher. Zhang Han stood by her side and cooperated by playing a few keys. Under all these lights, Xian's exquisite face looked blurrily beautiful. It was a unique beauty. She focused on handling the machines and a complete EDM piece was produced. Oh, amazing. Beautiful. When the song ended, Brother Long, Day, Liang Hao, and Liang Mengkai all shouted and clapped in awe. They truly felt that the duo on stage was very outstanding. Ahem. Xian picked up the microphone and cleared her throat. This EDM is made especially for Lili. Your older brother had been working on this a week ago. Zhang Han looked at his sister, who was now teary-eyed. He chuckled and shook his head. Bro has a family now. Although I might have neglected you a little, you're definitely still in my heart. Before he finished his words, Zhang Li ran up to him and plunged herself into his arms. Bro. At that instant, Zhang Li was moved to tears. All right, you're already so old, yet you're still a crybaby. Zhang Han laughed helplessly. He stretched out his hand to pat her back. While saying so, he also glanced at Xian, as he was afraid that she would be jealous. But Xian was not so stingy. She pursed her lips and watched with a smile at the side. There is definitely a difference between men and women. If they hugged like this on normal days, she would definitely be jealous and angry. But at this moment, it was only natural for them to do so. Zhang Li's emotions came and went very quickly. About 10 seconds later, she let go of him and broke into a smile. While wiping away the tear at the corner of her eye, she said, Bro, you know something about EDM, it's really nice, I want to listen to it one more time. Yeah, Brother Han is so awesome, I'm in awe. Respect. Liang Hao slid over and waved his hand at Zhang Han continuously. Actually, he also wanted to call him bro. But when it came to his mouth, he lost the courage to do so, so he ended up calling him Brother Han. Seeing his uneasy expression, Xian could not help covering her mouth and laughing. Zhang Han looked at her and then at Zhang Li. He patted her head and smiled. You'll have a lot of time to listen to it in the afternoon. Your sister-in-law and I made a business deal with an EDM genius in order to create this. This is a present for you to shut your mouth in case you complain to dad and mom when they come back that I forgot about you after I got a wife. PFFT. That one sentence caused everyone to laugh. Zhang Li sniffled and stopped her nose from running anymore. Who knows? HMPH. I really intended to complain, but I wanted to complain that you found an extremely good wife and an extremely cute child. Haha, thanks bro, thanks sister-in-law. I really like this gift. As long as you like it, the song is very nice, but you're going to be busy soon. Your brother especially looked for a team from Universal Records to produce an MV for you. Xian smiled proudly and said, "Really, then, will it cost a lot?" Zhang Li grinned and said, "Why are you talking about money?" Xian shook her head slightly and wrapped her arm around Zhang Han's. "We are one family, your brother's money is also your money." Hee, thank you, sister-in-law. Zhang Li was overjoyed and thanked her again. "All right, the song is in this USB, listen to it yourself. We got to go pick up Meng Meng," Zhang Han said after glancing at the time. No matter what, the time taken to pick up Meng Meng had to always be set aside in advance. Okay, then you two go and pick up Meng Meng first. Oh, by the way, I'll be moving on to the mountain tomorrow. I'll be living in the first row of villas below your castle. Fei and I are living together, it's really beautiful there." Zhang Li's eyes sparkled as she looked at her brother in admiration. She truly felt that her brother's life was like a rainbow after the rain. After that downfall during those years, he rose up higher and higher. He was really amazing. If the Zhang family found this out, they would be full of regret. All along, their family was not very close to the Zhang family. Zhang Li once felt that second grandpa, third grandpa, as well as two other elders who were older by one generation, always looked at their family with a strange gaze. It was not exclusion, but it was also not closeness, it was complex neutrality. Hence, ever since they were young, she and her brother did not feel a strong sense of belonging to the Zhang family. Later on, when Zhang Han was kicked out of the house, she was very discouraged, but now that her brother was so successful, they would be blown away if they found out. Thinking about their expressions, she felt so relieved. However, what made her even more excited at this moment was the USB on the table in front of her. There were a whopping 8 EDM songs. After all, Zhang Han and Xian exited hand in hand. When they arrived at the door, they heard Zhang Li's excited scream. PFFT. Xian covered her mouth and laughed. She glanced at Zhang Han and said, "I really like Lilai's character so much. She's so true to herself. Seeing her so happy, I feel that the past few days when we were so busy was very more satisfactory." She was usually a woman of few words. She was composed and gave the vibe of a princess and a goddess. However, she liked to make friends with those who did not have the same character as herself, but those who were cheerful and lively. Yup, she's just like that, always so careless. Zhang Han smiled and shook his head. He got in the GLC with Xian and drove off to St. Rose Kindergarten. At around 4:15 p.m., they reached the entrance of the kindergarten. This time around, they came earlier and parked the car directly near the school entrance. Seeing about 7 to 8 reporters taking pictures of them, Xian lowered her hat and chatted with Zhang Han smilingly. "So strange. Usually, there would be a lot of paparazzi following us, but we haven't met a single one recently." Xian glanced at Zhang Han and said, "Ha." Zhang Han chuckled and said, "How could there be none? Many were following us, but luck was not on their side. All of them got a flat tire. Eh? Ha ha ha." Xian froze for a split second before covering her mouth and laughing. Her beautiful big eyes curved into 2 crescent moons. "This is fun. In the past, I always had to worry about them following me. Now they've met their worthy opponents. When we left the kindergarten yesterday, the guy in front of us who wore a blue cap was still complaining on the phone, saying, 'Continue? I can't continue. I'm not going to do this anymore for the rest of my life. My car tires will start bursting once I do it. I can't afford this, I can't afford it,' Zhang Han said as he pointed with his mouth to a man in front of them. His words made Xian laugh non-stop. This kind of thing seemed amusing to her. Just like that, the couple talked and laughed for more than 10 minutes. Then, the after-school bell rang. When the children in the big class came out in formation, Zhang Han went in to pick up Meng Meng. "Papa." Meng Meng was particularly excited this time around. She ran quickly and plunged herself into Zhang Han's arms immediately. "Papa, quickly close your eyes." Meng Meng stretched out her hand and covered his eyes. Okay, Zhang Han responded and closed his eyes. Papa, you cannot open your eyes, no peeking, you must wait for me, it's going to be very quick, Papa, you can start counting, just like me. While saying so, she started to search in her pockets. While searching, she continued saying, Papa, don't rush, it's going to be over soon. 1, okay, Papa, open your eyes. At this moment, Zhang Han opened his eyes slowly. Look. Meng stretched out her tiny hand, and in her palm sat a little red flower made of fabric. Wow, a little red flower? Zhang Han's eyes popped even wider. He leaned forward and pecked her on her soft cheek. He laughed out loud. Meng got a little red flower. You're so good, awesome. It was not pretense. He was truly happy. Ha ha ha. Meng's face was filled with joy. She was all smiles and looked proud of herself. She had been waiting for this day for a long time. Papa, this is the first little red flower in our class, and I got it. Only 3 people got a little red flower today, she added. Only 3, and Meng was one of them. You're so great. Papa gives you a big thumbs up, Zhang Han said with a smile. Ay. Meng suddenly shouted. Her gaze froze on her little red flower. It's broken, Papa. Why is it broken? It lost a petal. The little lass became down all of a sudden and she even pouted her little mouth. Her big clear eyes looked like they were going to burst into tears. Zhang Han's heart fell, and he quickly said, it seems like there's a problem with the quality of this little red flower, but that's all right. We can find Teacher Lu to get another one. We are the first to get a little red flower, so we must exchange it for a new one, the best one, right? While saying all these, he carried her toward her class. We want to get a new one. Meng did not cry. After going up to Lu, she said sadly, Teacher Lu, my little red flower is broken, it lost a petal. At this moment, Meng was worried that she could not get a new one. However, after hearing it, Teacher Lu smiled. Then I'll go get you a new one. Oh, okay, thank you, Teacher Lu. Meng became happy again. Lu opened her bag and took out a box. It was a box full of little red flowers. She gave Meng a new one. The little lady was finally content and left with Zhang Han while he held her hand. Back in the car, Meng could not wait to showcase the little red flower in her hand. Mama, look, I got a little red flower. Hearing that, Xian smiled and praised her. Receiving the praise, Meng was very satisfied. She was overjoyed. Papa, you said that if I got a little red flower you would promise me one thing. Meng saw that he did not say anything and pouted her tiny mouth to remind him. Yes, a little red flower, and I'll promise you one thing. Is there anything that you want to do at the moment? Zhang Han asked with a smile. Nope, I'll tell you next time, we can keep it first. Meng said seriously. Ha ha ha, okay, then let's keep it first. But since Meng got a little red flower, we have to reward her. Should we go to buy ice cream first? Zhang Han asked. Ice cream? Yes, okay. Meng broke into a dance. On the way to the mall, she even hummed a song. Meng spent almost every day filled with happiness. Sometimes in school, she might feel upset, but she was always very happy at home. She was more obedient than many other children. Despite how Zhang Han doted on her, she did not become spoiled. Of course, this was all Xian's credit. Meng herself also vaguely knew that it was not a smooth ride for Papa. Hence, Zhang Han first drove to a mall nearby on the right, bought some ice cream, and then drove back to Cold Immortal School. Back on the 3rd floor of the castle, the whole family went to Meng's spacious bedroom. This small blackboard is for Meng to keep her little red flowers. Mama wrote down the dates here and you can just stick them on the board with this. There was a small blackboard near the wall on the left. There were several small magnets for note-taking. Xian wrote down the date and placed the flower on top. She used the magnet to stick the little red flower to the board. All right, This is Meng Meng's first little red flower. You did so well. In the future, this blackboard will be filled with all of your little red flowers." Xian clapped her hands and said, When it's full, then Papa will owe me many things." Meng Meng pouted her tiny mouth, and her gaze at the board was filled with anticipation. Zhang Han found Meng Meng's words a little amusing and he shook his head. It seemed like the little lady liked this more. As long as she wanted something, he would naturally agree. However, Zhang Han did not expect that the things he owed her because of these little red flowers would become a headache a few years down the road. "Meng Meng, what do you want to eat for dinner? Daddy is going to prepare the ingredients," Zhang Han asked with a smile. Meng Meng stared at the blackboard for a few moments and mumbled, "I'll think about it later. I want to put this board in our bedroom, not here." "Ah, okay, then we'll put it in our bedroom." Zhang Han picked up the blackboard. The family of three went to the master bedroom and placed the blackboard against the wall beside the small bed. "Now you can think about what you want to eat." Mama, what do you want to eat?" "Mama will just eat what you want to eat." "Papa, then let's eat hot pot." "Okay, okay." Then, Zhang Han got Zhao Feng to prepare the ingredients for hot pot. At 6 p.m., they had dinner in the dining room on the 5th floor of the cylindrical building. This was the highest place in the castle. It was surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows all around, and there was no obstruction to the scenery at all. After dinner, Zhang Han and Xian accompanied Meng Meng to the back mountain. Sitting under the canopy, Xian sipped on a cold drink while playing with her phone. "You passed the preliminary audition. Next Monday, which is the 15th, we have to go to Shenzhen to start recording the show. Are you nervous?" Xian glanced at Zhang Han with a bright smile. "I'm so nervous," Zhang Han replied a little speechlessly. "HMPH, by then, I'll be your queen. I can eliminate you as I like. Why aren't you taking this chance to get on my good side?" Xian murmured, "Yes, my queen." Zhang Han made a greeting gesture and whispered, "Wait till you see how I serve you at night. Your Majesty will be intoxicated for sure." "PFFT, what nonsense are you spouting?" Xian's face flushed red instantly. She rolled her eyes at him annoyedly. "My period just ended. I can't do it today." Then, Zhang Han's gaze fell on her sexy red lips. "Hey!" Xian's cheeks were burning. She sulked and said, "This is how you get on my good side? Then I'm going to eliminate you when the time comes." "Ha ha ha, all right, all right. How about I give you a massage?" Zhang Han smiled and stood up. He walked behind her and started pressing on her shoulders. Xian pursed her lips and smiled. She held her phone and clicked on an article regarding the show. "Look, the official statement has already been released. The supervisors lineup is the four of us. You know them all, right?" Zhang Han looked at the other three male supervisors and nodded. "Yay, the one on the left is that old school rapper Zuo Dong, and the second one is the celebrity Diehua, who was quite famous a few years back. The two of them should be on one team, right?" "Huh? How did you know?" Xian asked curiously and pulled his hand and made him sit down beside her. "Because they aren't very popular right now. The third one is Gafan. He has good visuals and is a popular handsome boy. He blew up right after he debuted. His singing is good and he's a very popular celebrity. He will definitely not be on a team with either of them. The two of them seem more suitable together," Zhang Han said casually. "You're right, but because Zuo Dong and Diehua's relationship is quite good and they've collaborated a few times before, they were set to be on the same team right from the start." Xian nodded. "As for the fourth one, she's too nice. She's pretty, has a sweet voice, is skillful." "What did you say?" Xian glared at him. "She's pretty, has a sweet voice, and is very popular now. She's definitely on her own." Zhang Han quickly changed his words. "HMPH, these few days, a certain someone has got to be careful. If he doesn't perform well, he will be eliminated." Xian sat up straight and said seriously, but she could not keep that expression for more than 5 seconds. It was all because of Zhang Han's roaming hands.